Welcome back to another edition of Talk That Talk Tuesday. Man, you gotta love that music. I swear, Black Man Unfiltered is one of them Avengers, man. I like that music. How y'all doing this evening?
Good.
Okay,
Doing well. Doing well.
Good.
Doing well.
Doing well.
Good. Listen, gang, I'll be hosting tonight. Black Man Unfiltered had a previous engagement, but tonight we are going to talk about topics that people rarely talk about. And tonight's topic is, did traditional marriage ruin modern relationships? Now, when Black Man set that up, I was thinking to myself, how did marriage ruin modern day relationships? So we had to do a little bit of work. You know what I mean? A little bit of figuring this thing out. You know what I mean? But first, I'm going to go and recognize a few people in the chat while we got it up. First of all, I want to recognize Take Heed to the Message, even though she's here. We want to say, hey, how you doing? And we got R. Payne, Anissa, Mr. Bennett,
Stephanie.
Reckless Ray De Niro, Miss Jenny's in the house, and we got JT, and we have the White School Podcast. How you doing, baby? So let's go ahead and get started, y'all. The topic that we're working about today is, did traditional marriage ruin modern relationships? First of all, I want to get a temperature check from each one of you and how you guys feel about it. And I got a few questions that we're going to run by, and we're going to examine this subject. And the first person we're going to start with is the great R. Payne. Mr. R. Payne, what do you think, sir? Did traditional marriage ruin modern relationships?
if you're talking about expectations, it has something to do with the fact that modern people can't live up to those traditional expectations. In that case, then maybe there's some things that are broken. I don't know if it ruined it, but it certainly folks can't seem to live up to tradition on either side, men or women. Maybe they don't want to, maybe they don't have to, but that's where we could discuss.
Okay, thank you, Harpain. Anissa, welcome. How are you this evening, darling?
I am wonderful this evening. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone.
Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Good.
Anissa, what's your take on that? Did traditional marriage ruin modern day relationships?
Well, I think I would definitely say today we are a long way from traditional. I don't know if we'll ever get back to traditional. I don't know if I'll say it ruined it, but I think it has definitely shone a bright light on where we are today, and we're a long way from where we should be for sure.
Thank you, Anissa. And we also have the one and only Mr. Bennett. Mr. Bennett, how are you today, sir?
I am doing well. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. Man, that was a kidney punch you guys just landed in the opening round here. So I'm still taking that in. I would say not so much traditional marriage, even though that's the topic tonight, but I think we've covered some of this ground in prior shows. More generally, tradition. And obviously marriage is part of tradition. And I think I was literally just having a conversation with some friends of mine from India, and we were talking about this very thing, about culture and the new generation and how they look at things today. And so I think there may be a case made for tradition is certainly turning people off to how they move and operate today. Not necessarily for their benefit, but I think there may be something too when we look at these traditions that have been maintained over the years. Do they bear some culpability for how people look at relationships today? So I definitely think it's a worthy discussion topic, and I'm not just going to dismiss that out of hand.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bennett. Thank you. And also we have the one and only Take Heed to the Message. Good evening, Take Heed. How are you this evening?
Good evening, everybody. How y'all doing this evening?
Good. Take Heed, what's your take on this?
I don't know if we can say that. I don't know if we can say that traditional marriage ruined
Modern day
the
relationship.
modern day relationship. I don't think we could say that with a clear, with a clear mind. That doesn't make sense. But I guess because the modern women say that our grandmothers put up with a lot of foolery, they put up with a lot of nonsense of what they claim, and that our grandmothers were unhappy and suffering because of our grandfathers and stuff like that. I do not believe that to be true. Not everybody had horror stories back in the day. Some marriages thrived and they built foundations, and now their offspring are standing on these foundations. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I don't know, but when you hear modern women talk, they always immediately go to all the bad to persuade. I always say that word wrong. I'm sorry, baby. Thank
I
you.
got you.
So to do that, so they always go to all the bad to make all the women. Hold on just for 1 minute. I'm sorry.
Oh, she's finna get them together. y'all.
Discipline.
While we waiting on her to come back, Reckless Ray, you next, sir. Did traditional marriage ruin modern day relationships?
Did traditional marriage ruin modern day relationships, or
Right.
did we? Now, me personally, you know how I'm going to come at this. It's our pain's fault. And it's because it is. It's also Mr. Bennett's fault. He's been happily married for a long time. It's all of you old boomers, Gen Zs. It's your fault. And it's your fault in a sense. And it's actually my generation's fault too. Millennials, it's our fault as well.
You meant Gen X?
Gen X. Yeah. Gen X, Gen Z, the millennials, basically everyone who's old. All of us old geezers. Old geezer and up, because the rest of you are I'm old, y'all are dead. So it's all our fault collectively, and I'll tell you why. It's our fault because the message that was handed down never evolved. And then now that it's started to evolve, everyone's mad about it. Namely the women, because obviously they've been benefiting this whole time regardless. But it's those, happy wife, happy life. Those of you who live that and showed that, and that was the example that was given, and then it escalated, and then it escalated, and now we're just supposed to bear the brunt of everything, and now we're just supposed to go clean up every mess that's out in the street because that's our job as a community, right? Those of us who are successful, those of us who are making moves. It's on us. It's our fault now. And then we had the generation that was my generation that wanted to teach that everything is copacetic and we're going to champion everything and everyone's going to get along and there's no standards and there's no pushback. I'm going to be my kid's friend. Now we have a bunch of grown children that don't know how to be adults. Of course they don't know how to be married. No one taught them. They never had an example because by this time, we don't have a whole bunch of our pains and Mr. Bennett's to at least go, look, we can reference those two. I don't have any of those. I never grew up with any Arpanes or Mr. Bennett's. Most of us are out here. We're having to learn how to do it by ourselves. And most of these men come out broken. They come out weakened. They never ascend to manhood because we didn't have men. We didn't have stalwart men. We didn't have stoic men. We didn't have men with a sense of duty. So now no one has a sense of duty because you guys weren't there. You didn't give the information out. Or you guys allowed your children to not live your standard, but you'll sit in judgment and complain. So, I mean, I think that the expectation of a traditional marriage looks wonderful. Everybody can look to Mr. Bennett and Arpane and see the joy in those men's faces. But the information that they have was never passed on in most cases. Now, I can't speak to their family specifically, but if you're allowing people down your line to not live your standards, then you have also dropped the ball because the standard wasn't kept. So then that information goes away. You can have a good marriage, but if your kids have fucked up marriages and they're making single family homes, producing single mothers, the standard was not held accountable and was not kept. So now that's gone for everyone but you, which is a detriment to the community. Because if we're not holding each other accountable, if we can't expect the people who've done it right to pass the information on, then because we're just letting everybody do whatever the hell they want, then we're doomed. There's not going to be traditional marriage except for the people who are talking that have been out of the game for 20 years, speaking to those of us who are in it going, man, it's a war zone out here. And you're going, oh, you just got to find the right one and try harder. Like there are no right ones. Have you produced right ones? Can you be like, yo, like, look, 3 generations, we've been getting it right. Is the model being held? And in most cases, this is no, because you'll see people who come from 2-parent homes that then allow their children to go create fucked up scenarios for their children. Chain's broken. How does it come back together? Because now they're given bad information, but they came from the model. And then one generation out, it's broken. And nobody says anything because, like, we're not allowed to judge and we're not allowed to shame anymore because that's mean. Or people are not willing to hold their offspring to the standards that they're upholding themselves. So, I mean, I think it's all the generations of old. I think that most of the mess that we're in is because the information wasn't passed down, or if it was shown and the example was shown, it wasn't articulated and it wasn't set as an expectation and a standard. We do not have standards. We produce individuals. We do not produce people that are carrying a generational burden upon themselves that I've got to get this right. I've got to get this right the first time. I've got to do this the right way because that's what I came from. That was the expectation. We didn't do that. We were friends. Everybody was friends with their kids. And now most of you are in the same fucked up scenario that your kids are in. You out here getting run through. Your daughter's out here getting run through. Y'all getting run through together. You guys are both in the same situation talking about, well, I want it better for my baby. But like you are in the same situation that this child is replicating. But we're supposed to make it better. Our models are broken, and the people who have the information did not enforce it until like now that we're all collectively complaining about the results of the lack of enforcement of the standard that we had in days of old. I'll digress.
Thank you. Take heed. Did you want to continue?
Yes, I am so sorry. One of my monsters came downstairs and made a lot of noise. So I apologize for that. You know, I like to be classy when I'm online. So what I want to say is that Ray, Ray, I'm with you on everything, right? But I want to share this with you, baby. Y'all generation is weak.
Yeah.
Y'all generation is weak. The generation before you, we have been through trauma that you don't even understand. And we are still here.
Yeah.
Y'all go through a little disagreement about something like we'll say, oh, I don't want to pay the mortgage, or I don't want to pay the rent. We'll talk about this. Or maybe somebody lost their job. And then y'all ready to just decimate the whole kingdom. Okay? But us who've been warriors, who've been through nonsense, when one of us lose the job, what do? We hustle together to keep the marriage. So yes, you can blame us. But y'all weak. Y'all weak. Y'all get in a little argument, y'all decimate the whole kingdom with the children. But yet, we will sit up here and we will fight for the kingdom and keep the children. So now, yes, some of us didn't pass the information on. Some of us did not. You are right about that. But some of us passed the information on, but y'all was too hard-headed to listen. And then on top of that, they had diapers. So when we would call ourselves trying to spank y'all, diapers was on the what the teacher tell y'all? What the teacher tell y'all? Oh, just call 911 if your mama or daddy spank you. If we would have made it to 911, the arm would have been halfway on the phone. We wouldn't even got the dialer number. So I'm saying we could take accountability, baby, but we gonna call a spade. Y'all weak, all of y'all. And then you sit up here talking about, I don't want to get mad. Let me share something with y'all. You know who you see when you get ready to pass away? You see a big woman like me come in your room. That's who you see. That you will ask me, Mama, can you pray for me? Because I don't have any offspring. No Titans are coming to say goodbye to me. You're going to pass away on your own. And all of what's going to happen is you're going to get zipped up in a bag and put in the freezer. Because y'all sitting up here talking about, y'all don't want to have children. I don't want to get married, all this other stuff. Yeah, and that's what's going to happen. And us who had children will pass away with Titans looking upon us and saying, Mama and Daddy, you did your job. Now, listen, I'm not saying that we was perfect. Our generation was not. We did foolery, but we lived through the nonsense. Y'all get in a little disagreement, y'all will destroy your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
You will destroy your marriage. I'm not happy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not happy. I'm ready to leave and take the children too. Nobody has a sense of duty anymore. Y'all will sit up here and say, well, I'm just not happy. I'm not feeling it. Now, this is the thing. Now, our generation, yes, we produced a lot of baby mamas, okay? Mm-hmm. My generation produced a lot of baby mamas, which was foolish for us to do, okay? Because that's why we got men out here acting just like women. We got men out here because we raised them like that. Mm-hmm. They talk just like us. So now when they get in a disagreement with their wife, they ready to run off like women do. That's why I always say, make sure if you're going to marry somebody, make sure that this king has been trained under another king. Because if he only been trained under his mama, he going to have mama tendencies and he going to act just like his wife. So you're going to have two women in the house that's going to be acting a fool. Okay, so now I digress, but I'm going to say one more thing. Y'all weak.
I am tired of being a cream puff. Mom. Yeah, that's right. Call for your mom.
Bro, you ain't gonna do me like that, bro.
You know what?
Did you hear what I said?
You heard what she said.
So lost in translation, my question is, if these are the women that we're left in the pool with, that we're telling you we got problems out here, then again, where are the marriageable women? I mean, I understand everything that she said, and she's 100% correct, but like she literally just described the majority of women, and she's right. And we're supposed to, the men, and I don't speak about the average men because I don't care what losers do. First off, but those of us who you're saying we're supposed to fix the community, like the old Ray Bears that provide jobs, that provide opportunity, that are doing what we're supposed to do. When we're telling you there's a problem within the community, and you just listed off basically the majority of the community. I'm supposed to go out there with a tranquilizer dart, a net, and a rope and catch a woman and force her to be a wife?
Can I answer that?
Where are they coming from? Where are they? Because you described the majority.
We had two more people that have to.
I'm sorry.
Answer.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna write that down. We're gonna come back to it.
Wife school is next, right?
I'm sorry.
After wife school.
Yeah, let's go wife school.
How you guys doing?
How you doing? Let me ask you a question. Did traditional marriage ruin modern day relationships?
No. Traditional marriage is an institution. If you cannot live up to the standards of it, that's your problem. You know what I'm saying? That's a person problem.
Right.
You know, if you don't, like he said, if you're not strong enough to be there through riches or poor, if you're not strong enough as a person to be there in sickness and health, that's a you problem. That's not a traditional marriage problem, because all, as we can see, our pain has been married for so long. Even JT is marrying his wife over again under the traditional roles. It's out there for us to partake in, but we as people, some haven't had the examples of knowing how a woman operates around a man, how to embrace him, be his peace, rub his head, kiss him on the neck, all those things, them small nuances, make his meal when he gets home. It's all about me. It's all about me. We've turned into the me generation. The men, unfortunately, have been in a situation where they had to live. They don't hate their moms. Nobody ever hates their mom, but they're forced to live with their mom. And we know that sometimes they can be overbearing. Sometimes we can get in our emotions and talk and down talk and do these things to the boy. So you're emasculating a young man, holding him back in his masculinity all the way up until he just can't wait to leave. But yet he's picked up feminine tendencies. Not saying that he's feminine, but the tendencies of that emotion, right? And like you said, getting ready to destroy the whole thing and all this stuff. I'm out. And he doesn't know how to be a man because he hasn't seen one. Let's look at Kurt Franklin. Look at him.
Talk about
all the years of struggling, and just met his dad, and his mom didn't even tell him the truth. So it's the people. So I don't like when people try to down on traditional marriage. Actually, a company that works on one product, Smuckers, they work on that grape jelly. It's the best jelly on the market because they stuck to one thing, one recipe over the years and perfected it. So there's nothing wrong with traditionalism. It's the people that want to go in and want to change something. Oh, we got to put some glitter in there. We got to do this and do that. No. Just keep it the way it was. It's a family secret, and you'll be fine. But the people do not have the emotional longevity. They don't have the characteristics to carry out such a long task. It's a marathon. It's not microwave. I cannot bend you to act a way and be this way, and you can't do the same thing to me. It's not about manipulation. It's actually about coming together and being one. And that's the issue today. We have a lot of distractions. We have a lot of things that are really, as an outside influence, really trying to damper and dismantle what the family is. So it's way more than just modern day relationship. It's the individual, the modern individual. Sorry.
Thank you, Wife School. JT, sir, welcome back. JT, what's your take on this, man? Sir. What's your take?
Looking at this, I've been looking at this doggone title since Black Man put this thing up last week, and just looking at this title, I can say that it's flipped around. I have to say that it would be the modern day relationships ruined traditional marriages, right?
Right.
I would say that Wife School, she hit it right on the head when she was talking about the recipe. There's a lost recipe. Nobody knows the recipe. All we have is ideologies. When you have a Mr. Bennett or a R. Payne that's telling you about marriage, it's because they came up with their own recipe. They used everything that they observed, everything that they've been through. They've also used their own ideology, and they had goals. When we're talking about the difference between traditional and modern comes from tradition. So even if you have a modern relationship, there's some tradition that you should have in it. The problem is that we have a lost recipe. Nobody knows what the recipe is. We keep coming up with our own recipe. We adding stuff that wasn't even an invention back then, right? When we're looking at our parents, we had all of what we needed to have from our parents, whether they had a long-lasting relationship or not. The craziest part to me is people, they never give that credit when you can see somebody doing something wrong and you can have the wherewithal to say, I know not to do that. Nobody gives that credit. You hear a whole bunch of people talking about, well, nobody told me, so I don't know. That makes no sense. It's kind of like the book, the first book ever written. Did they read another book to write that book? It makes no sense. So when we're talking about this whole thing of modern day relationships, let's think about what that actually is. I don't even think that we can even call it a relationship anymore. We can call most of these, what do they call them? They already call them
Partnership.
situationships. Situationships.
Yeah.
You know, nobody is relating to one another anymore. So you take that on out of there. I know we're going to get more into it, so I'm going to land it right there, and then we can go and dig, because it still is something for us to really, because I know you guys are going to have me, y'all have me thinking already, bro, so I'm ready. I'm with it.
You with it, JT?
I'm with it tonight.
Thank you, sir. We got one last person, Miss Jenny. Miss Jenny, are you there?
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Good evening.
Hey, Jenny.
So, Miss Jenny, let me ask you a question. Did traditional marriage ruin modern day relationships, in your opinion?
Well, it's funny what JT said, that he was thinking about this title and trying to figure it out, and I was doing the same thing. And as you guys were talking, it made me think about it, and I came to the conclusion that, yeah, traditional marriages ruin modern day relationships because, let's say someone like you ask for someone's advice, and they give you advice, and you don't want to do that, and so you do something else, and then the advice that they gave you keeps like haunting you in the back of your mind because what you're doing is not working, but you don't want to take their advice. And so people today, they keep trying to reinvent the wheel, and they keep, wanting to do their own thing. Like other people have been saying, they're like, oh, monogamous relationships, I don't want to do that. I want to do poly, or I'm going to be a man and I'm going to have, 3 wives, or I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. But just that looming, giant of just a one man and one woman being fidelious to each other forever, that just keeps looming in the background and like ruining their relationships. And they're like, I don't know what's wrong, why is my relationship not working? And it's like, because you're not doing it the way that it's supposed to be done. And it's like that traditional standard that what we know as a regular marriage, that keeps just like staying in the back of their mind, and it's ruining. And so I think that is that's how I perceive the title. So that's what I would say.
Thank you, Miss Jenny. I'm glad you brought that point up. There's an old saying in the Bible, said the truth shall set you free. That's not quite accurate. It's those who follow the truth that was made set free. You know what I'm saying? It's those who decided to listen who are made set free. And I think what happens is we try to turn something into something that is not. That's another one of my famous sayings, is that cake less eggs ain't cake. You know what I mean? If you try to make a cake without eggs, you got biscuits. You know what I mean? So that's not exactly the same thing. You know what I mean? You want to have breakfast, you know what I mean, instead of cake. I think everybody enjoys cake more than they do biscuits, if I'm not mistaken. If you're just not into cake. So take heed.
Well, unless you put some of that Smucker's jelly on there.
Yeah, hey,
now you got.
I'm trying to told you.
You talking now. Ain't nothing like some smoking jelly. You know what I'm saying?
Or the biscuit. Ooh.
That's right. We'll go back to Take Heed. Take Heed. What were you saying earlier? I think you had a rebuttal for Ray, if I'm not mistaken.
Ray, I love you. I just want to say that first. I love you very much. I want to tell you that first. Okay, but this is what I'm going to add with this. And a lot of women will get upset with me right now. They are not going to agree with what I'm about to say. But Black women have decided that they do not want to rock with the Black man. We see it all over social media. You have a handful of Black women that say they want to rock with the Black man, but these handful are already married. So we're under a covering already. Okay. And then you have the ratchet ones on one side, and then you have the Black women that are in the middle, that they're half ratchet and half doing other nonsense out in the street. Okay. So I'm going to say this, and this is going to hurt, and I'm probably going to get a lot of people to stop following me, but the Black woman will go extinct. She will go extinct because she doesn't want to get up. She doesn't want to speak for herself. She doesn't want to separate herself from the ratchetness that's going on social media. So what's going to happen is that the passport bros will continue to grow, and they will bring women from different countries to continue the lineage of Black America. That's what will happen. And when people turn around and find out that this is true, they will say they wish they would have knew, but they know. They know, but they act like they don't want to know. And I know a lot of people will not agree with me, and that's fine. But a man does not like to be dictated to. He doesn't. I watched a video of Charlemagne and them, right? They had a woman on that she was arguing with a gentleman that goes on Fox News all the time, and he promotes the negativity of our culture. He promotes that. He says, "Oh, the Black woman, the Black man, all this." And this woman who was against him, now her teaching was correct, but the way she came off at this man was so disrespectful that nobody could hear her. Because a woman can talk calmly and be the loudest one in the room when she's trying to give education. But since she was so ratchet with bringing around her conversation, she's the one that's being blamed in the whole scenario. Even though she's the educated one and he's educated as well, but because she decided to be nasty and rude to this Black man, everybody is crucifying her on social media. So just because you have a power as a woman, right? We have to learn that our femininity, okay? Our femininity is power. We miss that. We miss that. And this is what Black women have lost. We have lost this. And this is why you see young Black men traveling abroad, because we don't know how to talk to our men anymore. If somebody greets you and say good morning, you immediately turn around, got a stank face on, and you don't know how to say good morning back. And this is the thing, that in our culture we just dislike each other so much. Our Black women have ran around saying they don't need the Black man. The Black man ain't nothing. He's not educated. He don't have anything. He doesn't have a good job. He doesn't have this. He doesn't have that. When you keep stomping your man to the ground, how is he supposed to love you? Tell me, because we've been doing this since the 70s. So how is he supposed to love you if you keep knocking him down? And then when he do fall down, you help the crowd stomp him. So I believe that this will happen. And, I'm married, so I don't have to worry about that. I'm married. I don't plan on going to the streets, so I don't have to worry about that. But for the younger generation, they're going to have a problem, because Men can't take the disrespect. They can't. I know my husband can't. I can't come at my husband all rah rah like I'm crazy. But we expect black men to take our ish. We expect it. You want to know why? Because they was raised by black women. That's why we always throwing up in their face. Oh, you talk to your mama like that? And then black men should start saying, do you talk to your father like that? But we don't. We don't say anything. And then when we do try to correct the behavior of our black women, you know what they say? You'll see people in the comment section, even the Christian women, judge ye not and ye shall not be judged. But you did not speak the whole scripture. You did not. So it's okay for her to be ratchet, shaking her behind all on social media, telling people she got gonorrhea lipstick and she got pink Padussy lipstick. It's okay for her to be saying that. And nobody wants to correct it. They just laugh and say, oh, she just being young. No, there's a correction that needs to be made. Booty hole Brown. Where's this nonsense coming from? Mama, I need to talk to you. You done taught this girl nonsense. I'm done. I'm done with my rant.
I don't know what to say behind the booty hole Brown.
Can I
I thought I was looking at. I
Come on,
thought I was
Mr.
looking at
Bennett.
Take Heed. I thought. I'm sorry. I
Go
thought I
ahead,
was
JT.
looking at Take Heed on damn IG. I'm like, God damn, I forgot we was even on YouTube. Go ahead, girl.
Come on, Mr. Bennett.
Y'all got her fired up.
Come on, Mr. Bennett. Thoughts?
Well, as I led with, I said I had conversations with some really long-term friends of mine, and again, they're from India. They're from Hyderabad, and the fact that I'm in the IT field, certainly a lot of my friends and person I know are from that community. And I think I explained about a month ago, I was with an African family from Sierra Leone. And one thing I just want to give some context here. Yes, we're talking about local to the African American experience here, but this is a global issue. This idea of the cultures that a lot of these people come from, which you on the outside, you look at it and you see that there's a beauty to it from the outside. There's a history. You can see it, you can feel it when you're around people, this thing. But when you look again at the kids, again, my friends, their kids grew up with mine. They're all basically around the same age. They know each other. They're on ID together. So this is across the board. And our kids are very certainly unlike older generations. They're very much it's a rainbow across the board. Their friends are from every ethnicity, every background you can think of, whereas these older generations, they were definitely a lot more tribal and a lot more clannish, even within the communities themselves. There are tribes, there's sub tribes, and there's castes, and there's just different ways that you roll in that you just that a lot of these kids are rejecting. So just speaking from the Asian Indian experience, that's explained to me the fact that you can't just say, okay, this is a good person, good values, good job, but you mean I can't marry him because they come from a different caste than I do? Is that what I want to pass on to the new generation? Or a lot of, I think Take Heed talked about it, how a lot of women sort of dealt with and took on a lot of the nonsense and the foolery. A lot of those Indian women took a lot of that stuff also. But the kids, they see it, they've seen it. And so for a lot of them, they're making a move to say either they're foregoing marriage or they're marrying later, they're marrying in their 30s. They're just going just in another direction. Now, again, it's a bad direction because again, they're going to wind up understanding that look, you're putting yourself in a bad way. Yes, I can understand a lot of things about that culture where you come from may not have been correct. And again, we talked about it in this space is talking about the church. Has the church failed us? Have our moms failed us? So we talk about religion. We're talking about just these traditions. We talked about I think last month we had a show where your father may have had at your father's funeral you met your step siblings for the first time, something like that. So to the point that Miss Jenny was making, talking about that, oh well, that tradition of you be with one woman forever, But again, we know certainly in our community, that's not always true. So they weren't living. So they might have been telling us that, oh yeah, traditional values, one man, one woman. And then you say, hold up, then why I got these steps is where'd you guys come from? So there's a lot of things that have been said. We say tradition, but have we been living tradition? And I think even to Ray's point about evolving,
Mhm.
I think you always have to have some roots that don't change. Respect, loyalty, communication, those things. I don't care what culture, I don't care what environment, those things will never change. But certainly the branches are we allowing them to evolve? So I think that in this conversation, I think we just need to be mindful of that before we attack one generation or another. I'm saying that, and I like to look at those other cultures because they haven't been impacted. Like the African American experience, we got a whole lot of stuff. It's like we talk about white people catching a cold and we catch the flu. We got other compounding issues that make our situation even worse. So when I look at these other cultures and the I guess the more pure ones, and seeing that they are starting to see, like I said, that Sierra Leone group, 40 years from now, that they're going to take a major cultural hit, a major decline in marriage, because those kids, they're not even thinking about marriage, even though they have this great milieu of everything involved, the language, the food, everything is like set, and they love it, and they appreciate it, but they don't want to propagate it. So again, we have to look at this thing holistically, and that has culture, not just marriage. Because like I said, marriage is a cultural event. Usually, in the old days, marriage wasn't even about you guys, right? Marriage was about uniting kingdoms, right?
Mhm.
Uniting
Mhm.
communities, ending war. Wars were ended as part of the ending of the war. The two sides married each other, so that sealed the ending of the conflict between people. But now marriage has become so individualized, like it's about the couple now, and not about that larger group. I think we need to spend some time really thinking about, has the culture failed in certain ways that make marriage, which is a part of the culture, less attractive.
Mm.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Before we go, Ray, hold on a second. I got a video that we want to share. Then I'm gonna let you get back in. Black man, roll
I
it.
had an older lady tell me, she's, I think, just past 40, and her husband, I think, is like in his late 30s, like so maybe like 41 and 39. They've been married for a while. I was talking with her about some problems we were having in our marriage, and she said, Joyce, what it sounds like to me is that your issue is that you are married to a real man, and a real man is not going to be ruled by a woman. And that hit me like a ton of bricks, and it immediately came to my mind when I was reading this excerpt. When she says, don't go down the path of expressing criticism, disapproval, and an ultimate lack of acceptance for your husband because it may cause rebellion, she's telling the truth. A real man is not going to allow himself to be a pushover to the woman he has chosen.
Oh, you heard it, y'all.
Yep.
You heard. You know what that says. When she's married to a real man, you know what he says?
I am tired of being a cream puff.
That's right. He ain't putting up with that. He put his foot down. Our pain. Talk to us, sir. In this particular situation, is what she
Yeah,
said.
I saw that clip before. I saw that clip a couple of times. It makes a lot of sense. And unfortunately, there's not enough men who stand on any kind of principle. They're too worried about losing the woman, and we got a lot of men like that. And, excuse me, I'm still fighting this thing.
I hope you feel
Well,
better.
we got a lot of men like that. So this whole point about the new, like it's a disturbance in the force, okay? And one thing women don't understand is we got more time than you do. You got a 20-year window to meet your biological imperative. Men have a much longer window, and so, what y'all want from us and what we want from you, I think it does have to be some changes on both sides. And traditions do change, right? New equilibriums are established, and I think some of the gender wars a fight for that new equilibrium. But in all cases, men still have to be on their square as men. No, so what? And so in the end of the gender war, there's no scenario that I can see where a man's going to be subservient to his wife. That'll work. It won't work not because men need to be superior. They do. Women don't like inferior men. They just don't. And so it's not going to work. So they're battling for the supremacy. But it's no way you can have a relationship or a marriage with a man that you don't respect. So if you want to have families and build legacies, at some point women are going to have to acquiesce to the men in their lives. And the men have to prove certain things. But once that proof is there, once that trust is established, you need to back down. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care what kind of boss chick you think you are. It's always been absurd to me that a man could take a woman in the bedroom and do all manner of things to her. And all of that, but she can't make him a sandwich. Right? There's no bigger submission than when you're having sex with a woman. She's in the most submissive position she could ever be in. But that's okay. But making me a sandwich is a bridge too far. It's just ridiculous. So I'm just saying, the gender war has some faults on both sides, but in the end, if you want a man that you're going to respect, it ain't going to be just because he makes more money than you. You can't build anything when a man is underneath you and you're stepping on him. It's just not going to happen. And if it does happen, it ain't going to happen for very long, because you're going to disrespect that dude, and it's going to break apart. So that's where the gender war is. New traditions are a man who understands if you have your woman out there working, you can't have her doing double duty. It's as simple as that. You got to do more stuff in the home. I mean, I cook on Sundays. I wash my own clothes. My manhood is not challenged by the fact that I can work in the kitchen or I can wash my own clothes. My manhood doesn't rest on that.
Absolutely.
My manhood rests more on that. This is my household. Where we go is where I want to go, with some consultation with my wife. And if shit falls apart, it ain't going to be on her. It's going to be on me. It's going to be on me. So with that being said, it's only so much shit I'm going to take from my wife. Right? So I don't think it's really that complicated. I don't care what age we're in. That's the understanding men have to be. And I always go back to this. I'm going to put a video out on that. When a man asks a woman to marry him, he doesn't understand. Too many men don't understand that that's your last superpower. You are the gatekeeper. You're telling her that if I marry you, I'm going to give you all of these things. And all I want from you is loyalty, respect, exclusivity, and a few other things. Right? And in return, your name is going to be on everything. You're going to have everything I have to offer for the rest of your life. And men don't look at marriage that way. They just offer that damn benefit to all kinds of scrags. A woman, no matter how fine she is, if she goes through life and no man ever asked her to marry him, whether she says yes or no, they're going to feel some kind of way. They're going to feel some kind of way. Man, damn, I went through my whole life and no man think I'm worthy of being married. I think that's a big deal to someone. And men belittle that superpower, and we do it too much. So I'm going to just land it there. We can talk some more later on.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. Ray, what are your thoughts on the video? Was she right?
Yeah. I mean, at this point in the game, and this might be the new generation, this is adapting to the situation that we're in. We're not, if you got a real one, we're not tolerating that. Like, I work too hard. We work too hard. Like, it's not, the financial game has changed from your guys' the older generation. It's much harder to get ahead. It's even harder to consistently stay ahead. We are under financial attack. We do not have the ability or the time to fight wars on two fronts. And the thing is, those of us who are producers, we're going to get picked off from people outside this race. Like, that's just the reality. You're going to get a bunch more reckless Ray DeNiro's and Patrick Mahomes. get used to it. Because that's what's going to happen. It's just the reality of what it is, because other groups can assess value. It's just what it is. Like, the amount of daily grinding and trauma that we go through to even make it in this society, and they're making it harder. At this point, it's every quarter it gets harder. Every 3-4 months, it's worse than what it was 3-4 months ago. It's harder. Your rent's going up. You're seeing people getting shuffled around, moving multiple times because they have no rent security. They don't own anything. The one respite that we have as men is that little bit of time that we get when we get home, in between finishing the one battle and resting to go into it again the next day. And a lot of men have to sit in the parking lot of their home in the driveway for an hour in the car to get that little bit of respite. Because then they got to go in and deal with the battle till they close their eyes with the person that's supposed to have their back. I mean, the expectation that we're supposed to go through that too, like, I mean, at least in the days of old, if it was a situation like that, the dude had another family across town that he could afford to take care of that actually liked him. Like, we ain't even getting that. We just got the one family that hates you. You come home, the wife's done poison the kid against you. You just fighting everybody in there. It's terrible. Don't nobody listen to or respect you. And you just supposed to keep it moving. Your feet hurt, your back hurt. You can't get a plate. And you come home to more problems, more stress. I mean, we can call it what we want, but like at this point in the game, if the world's coming to an end, gosh dang it, we gonna at least get that one piece of respite. Like, if this civilization's collapsing, I at least want to sleep good.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. JT, talk to us, man. Was she right?
No, she was absolutely right. She was absolutely right. Sound like she was describing me. I don't take no disrespect. You're gonna always get that pushback. You know, I'm a real easygoing guy until disrespect rears its ugly face to me. Just not, I'm never gonna be that type of a guy. One of the things I've observed in my family as a kid and growing all the way up until adulthood was I've seen a lot of women in my family get married for second and third time. And that second and third husband that they end up getting used to be a whole lot more subservient than the husband they left.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen, my family members, these are my aunties and female cousins and, all kind of females that I've seen have husbands that, and this is crazy, that were drinkers, right? Drunks compared to their first husband. The first husband probably was a he had a stern hand. That was the one that she gave the kids to. And she, at some point, left him. And I've seen a lot of this happening. But that second and the third husband was either inebriated or he was a wimp. He was the one that when she needed somebody to go to the stove, he was the one that did that. When she needed somebody who needed him to go fix somebody's carburetor or lay some cement, or because they were very skilled, but they just was they were just subservient to them. And they always had some type of they had some type of clutch that they had, whether it was alcohol or drugs. And as I got older, that was one of the things that I looked at that I never wanted to be. Because once that man tried to talk back to them, what do? Kick him out.
Mm-hmm.
And disrespect them. And if she had old enough kids, she'd get her sons to jump on them. And then you start seeing it in my generation. things like that. It was just my generation was a little more hot-headed than the generation before. I'm a 70s baby, so this is where you had a lot of these guys that you'd bring your brother over. Your brother probably get his ass kicked too. Cousin will too. But it was that type of thing that was going on. But in my generation, they went from fighting to shooting and stabbing.
Mm-hmm.
And look where we got now in the generation after that.
Right.
It's just all shooting now. And guess who's getting killed more than anybody? The children are.
Right.
They're the ones getting caught up in the crossfire. They're getting caught up in the house bombings. So when we're talking about this whole thing of tradition and relationships, again,
Mm-hmm.
it is worth us really, really digging deep into the ideology of a relationship, whether it's moderate or traditional, and marriage. In my opinion, I think there are very few people that even qualify for marriage. And probably even more that qualifies just to have a relationship for marriage. And it's getting worse and worse and worse because we lost all of our recipes.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I land.
Thank you, JT. Anissa, you saw the video. What's your opinion on that? What's she right?
I think she was absolutely right. Men need respect. I think we know that and understand that by now. They need it and they thrive on it. And you're just not going to have the relationship that you want, the marriage that you want, the home life that you want, if there's no respect for the person that you have chosen to be the head of the home. So I think that she was absolutely right. I do want to address a few things because a lot has been said.
Go ahead. Take your time. It's your turn now. Go ahead.
Thank you. I do want to address a couple of things. I got to address Take Heed in her comment earlier because I do have some pushback on it. I noticed that you talked about the ratchet and the hood rats on one side, and then you said that in the middle you have the ones that are, I think you said half ratchet and half something or whatever. So do you not believe that there are any on the right side? Do you believe that there are not any women that are wives or that can be wives? And why do you think that men have such a difficulty in finding them? Because they definitely exist. And for Reckless Ray, I wanted to address something you said. You continue to ask where the marriageable women are. My question to you is, do you think that the majority of men that say they want to be married, do you believe that the majority of those men are spiritually, emotionally, and financially ready to be husbands and lead a wife? Because you yourself have said that you are a terrible boyfriend and you probably would make a terrible husband. You've said that before on another show. So who wants to go first?
Hold on a second, Ray.
Okay.
We're going to yield to Take
Okay.
Heed. And then we're going to go to you. And then we're going to go back to White School Podcast. And then we got to get something from Jenny. Even though she came in. We got something for you. Take Heed.
So I like what you asked me. I like it. Thank you. So this is what I believe. The women that are good, that they understand the assignment, most of them are already married and about to get married. Now, those are the ones that are quiet in the background because they're getting married and they're on their way to getting married. This is why you don't hear a lot of our sisters speak out, because the good ones are busy taking care of their families, doing what they're supposed to do. Now you got some soldiers out here, okay, White School Podcast. You got Security Boss Unsolicited. You got Crimson Cure. You got Mrs. She Said. You got some soldiers out here that they married or they was married, but they understand the assignment. You got some soldiers out here. But then the rest of them are home trying to take care of their families. So everybody, when you see a Black woman, you immediately think that she ratchet because the ratchet ones are at the head of the class. So we all look bad because the good Black women are not standing up saying, listen, go sit your behind down. You doing nonsense. You don't hear them say anything because they're busy trying to handle their families. And that's much respect to all of them because I was quiet too. I just came out a year and a half ago. I was quiet too, trying to take care of my family and do what I'm supposed to do as a wife. But it was only until my king encouraged me. He said, you got a big mouth for a reason. He said, you got a big mouth for a reason. I'm going to give you everything that you need to start you running your mouth and get out there and speak your mind. So now I do believe that there are some that are good, but most of them are married and are on their way to get married. You don't see the ones that are good that's out here on the ratchet TikTok and Instagram shaking everything. They're not doing it.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
So you don't believe that there are any single good ones out there, is what you're saying.
I'm gonna share something with you. If it is, I'll be shocked. If it is, because one thing I gotta give a shout out to the brothers. When they meet a wife, they could just immediately meet her in one date. When they meet that they know she's a wife, okay, they not letting her go. Once they know she a wife, they will not let her go. There's gonna be a war going on. They will not let her go because it's hard to find a wife nowadays. So when you find one, even if she come in the form of already having children, if she already was a baby mama, okay, she already was a baby mama or an ex-wife or something like that. If she comes in the form of that, but he sees she is a wife, this woman got a problem. This woman got a problem because this king is ready to say, nope, take all these other labels off you and slam you with wife. You are meant to be a wife. You are not a baby mother. And shout out to my king for saving me. Okay. That's all I'm trying to say. But I like what you said, but that, I yield the floor. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Take it. Reckless Ray, you want to respond to?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. You're right. And when I said that I was terrible at those things, I did give the context because I am almost into the lane of what these women say they want, which is somebody who is driven. Again, I am responsible for other people's livelihoods. I produce opportunity for other people, both in and outside of this culture. People look to me. I am a leader. So yeah, for the modern woman, I am a terrible boyfriend because I'm driven. But that's only the modern woman, or actually, I'm not even going to say modern woman. I would say the modern Western toxic concept. So I don't have problems dating in other cultures or other classes. Generally, the classes where these women aren't. Because I don't see them. That's the reason you don't see my channel with me complaining about them. I'm around wonderful women all the time that can assess value. But per the modern woman dichotomy, yes, I am terrible because I'm disciplined, I'm driven, and I am focused on building an empire, which is something that most of the women who fall into that class will never have or experience, but they want it because everybody wants what everyone else has that did the work to get it after they get the results because they think it's easy. But that's why I'm terrible, because I am work driven. I mean, I've walked in the house, I've gotten a call out from a client, and I'm like, cool, money, I got to go, and turned right back around and walked out because that's what I got to do.
But you do realize it takes more than that to be a husband, though.
100%, but there's a cost for comfort. And that's the thing that keeps getting forgotten. You
That is
want
true,
comfort, but
more
you don't want the
quality,
cost
more
of it.
quality than driven in money that meets the requirement of a husband. But I get what you're saying.
Well, I mean, I'm also very disciplined. I'm not dysgenic. I'm in extremely good shape. I mean, like, what do you want? like someone who is disciplined. I mean, I understand interpersonally, yes, those things are needed, but if you're running around navigating your existence based on being happy, you're never going to beat someone like me at anything because I don't care whether I'm happy or not. I don't function on happy. Happy is not a thought that crosses my mind ever. I do what needs to be done. Now, if you're navigating your life, and I understand women and children do get to be happy, but be careful what you ask for. And maybe just maybe, if you see someone on their mission, don't go try to curtail them because you want the comfort that's afforded, but you can't live the lifestyle that comes with that. Because all of my mentorship is married. They're all like me.
Thank you, Ray.
That's your example. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, like, 100%, I've geared myself towards where my goal is, which is a certain level of lifestyle, a certain ability to navigate as needed. And as things get worse, you will understand exactly how important that is.
Right.
It might not affect you, but these younger people out here, they're going to be living outside. It's going to get bad. They're going to become a problem for you. But like, you guys have already made your money. You'll be able to leave. Hopefully, you'll be able to sidestep it. Hopefully, but what's coming is coming, regardless of like how we want to break that down. And it's not going to be people that are navigating wanting to be happy that are going to make it through that. I'm just saying, because like work has to be done. We are in a fever pitch state right now.
Thank you, Ray.
That is a good point, though. I just want to just say one thing about that. I've noticed in these spaces that a lot of women, they want men to provide, but they want to also dictate how he does it, you know, and how much he's going to give them. And you can't have it both ways. You want a certain lifestyle, man has to do what he has to do. And all the soft stuff that you might want, you know, spending a lot of time with the kids, a lot of couch time with you, and all that kind of stuff, it has to be secondary for a certain period of time in order for you to get to a point where there's some residual from the work he put in, you know, and a lot of women don't understand that. And so they, by complaining about the fact that he's absent, but what is he absent for? Is he absent for the fact that he's getting a bag for the family? And by complaining about that, you're telling him all the work he does is not really appreciated. You know, because you're not getting what you want out of it. So it's one of those kind of things I used to notice in cop shows. A woman will marry a cop and he's dedicated to the job, but she always leaves him because he's a cop.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's like a common theme in that shit. I said, come on, you married a dude who's a cop. He's gonna put people's lives in front of his own from time to time to get the bad guy. And then all of a sudden you can't live with that because you want him to come home. You know, so I mean, that's just a movie, but it kind of stresses the point where I'm coming from. Maybe it's an extreme point, but I'll just land it there. I think women need to understand. You got everything's a trade-off in life. You want something, it's gonna cost. Let me just leave it there.
Can I piggyback off of something that he said?
No.
And it just gave me another perspective. It gave me another perspective on this whole thing, because I'm still right there with the modern day relationship and the traditional marriage.
Right.
And I think what's killing both of them, right? Because I think we can have both. It's fear. This word called happy. Expectations that are way out of the realm of what it is that you're doing to get what it is that you want, which brings back fear, which brings back, this is why you have so many women that will dodge out of the marriage or now out of relationships. They don't really want the things that they say that they actually want. because when they have to find out what it takes to maintain that, because you can get it, but how do you maintain it? And when they start seeing all the yada yada yadas in it, that's what make them say, you know what? I don't want to have to deal with this. Let me tell you what I've done. Dating. I dated until I found my woman. I dated intensely. It was an intensive dating. You just didn't know it was that intense, right? I understood that I was going to scare most of these women off.
Yep.
I knew that I was going to do it because I was offering them a lot of shit. But what it took for them to maintain that, they was like, hell no. 8 months tops was what I was giving them. 8 months tops. Most of them didn't even take, they couldn't even take 6 months. Some of them, it was 90 days. Some of them, it was after the third date because it was that intense. It was very intense because I was like, just nonchalant, you know, just dating nonchalant and we just hanging out and eating and fucking. That's not good in these times and days right now, right? So you have to be very, you have to have intent. You have to express the intent. Most guys don't do that. Traditionally, you won't have a guy that express it the way that I was. My intentions is to marry you, to eventually marry you. These are the things that I'm doing right now. This is what I'm expecting in our relationship in the next 30 days. You know, they like, what the fuck? This motherfucker narrating? It was
like James
like, it
Earl
was
Jones.
right. It was kind of like, this is kind of weird. But because how I was doing it, it was smooth, but it threw them off. You know, we go out on dates. I'm not asking you to pay nothing. I'm paying it all because I'm saying this is where we're going. You cool with that? Yep. And we're going there. You like to go to, you know, because I like music. I like jazz. I like going to jazz concerts. I like live concerts. You know, I even want to do something. Can you ice skate? Me neither. Let's go ahead and try that. You got a bike? I'll get you a bike. Let's go bike ride. It's a lot. It's a lot when a woman is like, this motherfucker is he doing too much. They will tell you that you're doing too much. That's how I ended up weeding a lot of them out.
True that.
I weeded them out. I'm not about to sit here and talk to you crazy and hey, what's going on? We texting all the damn time. No. We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to all of that. And so they like me, but it was intense. And guess what they end up doing? They opt out.
Yep.
Because that's not, they say this is what I want. And then when you give them what they want, they be like, oh, hell no, this is some bullshit right here. It's something else. I don't trust it. Look how he smile. He got an evil grin. They try to find everything so they can have a reason not to be in that relationship because they want to feel good about their decision. They're like, he ain't do nothing bad. Man. But that's what it just got me there. I'll land right there. But intense. Dating very intensely. It'll weed a lot of the bullshit out. Guaranteed.
Thank you, JT. Wife school, finally. We can talk.
I don't even have any energy after JT.
Hold on. Let's top you off. Let's go and feed you back up with some purple babies.
Get him back up, man.
That was energy. He was so intense with his message that I'm tapping out.
Yeah. Wife school, you saw the video.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a song I think Betty Wright wrote. It says, no pain and no gain. She said, you got to earn your man. You know what I'm saying? While you learn your man. Do you really think that women today are willing to learn and earn their man? Especially these women who want high value man. You know what I mean?
Ooh. Maybe only to the extent of where it benefits them and not benefits the man.
How so?
Like looking at the video, going back, like we can't hang with a real man these days. I don't think modern women can hang with real men these days because it's like I can admire Reckless Ray, You know,
Mhm.
those are the type of men I like. They're just like, oh, this is on the grind. I've always been in the vein of entrepreneurship because my dad was like that. He would go out, he would network, make a relationship. Man, how you come home with $1,000? You know, it was awesome. So as we went back, seeing that example, it kind of helps us better to know how to navigate with the men that move like that, knowing that they're not necessarily going to put you on a pedestal. If they have a goal that's in their mind, real men are going to move that way. They're not going to put you on a pedestal, but what they are doing is for your benefit, but they're not going to put you on a pedestal and get off their purpose for that, because in doing so, it's so detrimental to the relationship, because women's emotions are so wishy-washy sometimes. And so like, I can't go slay the dragon and try to be over here and, you know, pet you up and and throw flowers all over you because you're not here all the time. No, I got to go out here and slay this dragon. As Ray said, a woman that's really smart should know her man, should see how he's moving, should see, or even ask him, what are you doing? What's the goals? Or meet in with him and tap in with him to see what he's doing. Now, if I know that you're out here working for the sake of, like I observed so many do, like getting that crypto or learning a new skill set because that's going to be needed in the future, well, then I'm on board with that. But if I'm always like trying to pull on you and stop you, you're going to see that as like a hindrance, you know, and you're going to throw off the whole kingdom. You're going to throw it off just because I want you to lay up under me. And that's not cool. That's not cool. And women, that's what they want. They want the lifestyle. They want to lay on the beaches. They want to look good. They want the Chanel bags, things that just have no substance to it, and wondering why your relationship isn't lasting because material things can only go so far. Our money's not going that far these days.
Right.
I'm kind of worried about, is it even going to be worth anything, you know? And then we focus on the wrong things. We're focusing on these the lifestyle of a relationship, but not actually building a real relationship. And then, as many people have said, there's going to be a recession of husbands because they're going to lock up their resource. We don't make as much money as men do.
That ain't what these folks be saying. That ain't what Tyler Perry said.
Yeah, well, you know what
Tyler Perry said women are making more money.
We're gonna
And
be
if a
begging
man
for
puts in on
somebody
the
to
light
help
bill,
us out,
then you should respect that man for putting in on the light bill. You know what I'm saying?
He said put in on the light bill.
Yeah.
He was wrong.
But let's
go ahead. Who said
Go
that?
ahead, wife.
Oh, I was gonna say let's be honest though. You're
Mhm.
right. You're right. There are some women that make more money,
Mhm.
but women are not as good at building wealth. Like it's just what it is. Like that's not something that interests y'all. And I can give a perfect example. My aunt makes $250,000 a year. She actually makes that. That's her W-2. She runs Spiracare. What, as far as wealth building, completely underutilizing the money that she's getting.
Mhm.
Completely. Like they doing all sorts of stuff. But I'm like, look, you about to pay the most taxes you've ever paid in your life because you're in the highest tax bracket now. You're defending none of this money. And just nothing in place. Like in retirement savings, she's been making six figures for over a decade. Not what they should be.
Yeah, exactly.
But they doing everything.
I kind of agree with that. Let me tell you why I do.
Hey, I didn't
Have
finish.
you ever noticed? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I
I am
wasn't
so
finished.
sorry.
And we still got Jenny to go. Come on.
I know.
I
I'm
promise you,
so
JT,
sorry,
I'm
but
gonna
I'm
come back
saying
to
that
you.
women should
Okay.
definitely don't hold a real man by the balls. Okay, that's just not how it is. You know what I'm saying? I know that you've been told that the world revolves around you, that you're a princess, and all this and all that. But when you meet a real man, it's totally different. I will definitely pick a real man over somebody that's gonna be simping all day. Give me that guy that has value, that loves himself. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead. I like that. If that would take you to get out there and be driven, I'm all for it. Give me the real man any day. And if you have to do what you need to do, or like I feel like if I feel like you're away from the home sometimes, I'm like, can I ride in the car with you? Or I'm gonna find a way to get in there to spend the time with you and not take you away from your assignment. Or if I gotta make you your sandwich to go back out, right? Here's your sandwich, here's your coffee. All right, just make sure, but whatever. Or can I ride with you? You know, there's certain things that you can do to insert yourself as a feminine woman. Just like Take Heat says, we have to offset the men in their masculinity with our femininity and not tear them down, because it is a power, and we can continue to build, and more families will see that, wow, they're doing something right over there. That's what people need to see. And they need to see the woman getting in line to make the success happen, not rebut, not tear down the men.
Thank you, Wesco. I want to go ahead and get a little comment. Trey put up a comment. It says most women are still learning and figuring out who they are well into the late 40s and 50s. That's a long time, buddy.
That's a long time.
That's a long time, buddy. Let me tell you something.
Boy.
That's AARP territory right there. If you get that little AARP in the mail, you already know it's too late. Listen, guys, if you're enjoying the show, go ahead and hit the Cash App. $Black Man Unfiltered. While you're here, make sure you go ahead and hit the like button. That's the only way that we can let the YouTube algorithms know that we cooking over here. You know what I'm saying? So do that. And also share it too, man. We want to make sure we grow the family, to make sure we spread the word. Now to you, Miss Jenny.
Hey, before you go to her, I just had a quick question. What does that even mean?
What does what mean?
Now, I'm asking for the women's perspective. When you talk about a woman and finding her, she doesn't find herself until the 40s or 50s. What are you looking for? I mean, I
have no idea what he means by that.
No, but you hear it all the time. But what are you in search of? I get this thing like you Indiana Jones, you going into the Amazon, into the cave, looking for the lost, the pearl of the whatever. I don't know what you're looking for. I just don't. I mean, and again, guys do it too. I mean, certainly with this new generation, even guys are like, again, again, guys, my generation, when we were 18, we were doing it 18 with guys today doing it 30. So guys are even taking this time to court and find us. But what are you looking for? I just don't understand, what the great pearl of the whatever. I have no idea.
Oh, poor baby.
My God.
I'm
Mr. Bennett, I think it's just an excuse. It's just an excuse. That's all it is. I'm young girl. I'm at 40, but it's just an excuse. We can streamline a whole bunch of our problems if we just admit I'm messed up. I don't know how to pick a man, or I don't know how to lose weight. I don't know how to put down the donuts. Like, you got to admit it. But yet we get the women that says, come into the sister circlehood where we find ourselves and like the sage. Like, no, we're wasting time. Like, no, I don't need to waste any more time. I want a man. But at the end of the day, you're still in your house all like crying by yourself, or coming on to Instagram and TikTok crying I can't find a man. But you know what? Why don't you go listen to a man? Why don't you get a critique from a man that says, okay, baby girl, maybe if you do this, or like a fair evaluation, like maybe if you do this, I would date you. But we don't want to do that. We want to say we're finding ourselves just a few more years. And when somebody asks you, well, how long has it been since you've been dating? Oh, it's been 20 years. What? Are you serious? It's just an excuse, Mr. Bennett. That's all. It's just an excuse. And that's why, if we really look and if we really read, there are companies that are betting on women. The majority of women being single by the year 2030. That is only 7 years away. So if you cannot get some information and play catch up, you're going to be in trouble, because people already know you before you know you. So you really do need to get to know yourself. Peace.
I kind of like what SB said. She said finding themselves could mean being an accountable adult. Sometimes it may take a while for somebody to be accountable.
Well, that's not fine. That should be the goal.
That should be the
That's the
goal.
talk. Again, you're looking for something and you can't even quantify what it is. All you know is it's a feeling of some kind. But that what she's defining, that should be the goal. You should be seeking to be an accountable human being. That's what you should be seeking. And now you just need the tools in terms of how to do that. That shouldn't take you 20 years into your 40s or 50s before you understand that. But what they're looking for, and again, and it's a lot of times it's in the books that they're reading. I mean, how many of these self-help gurus write these books on finding internal happiness and all this stuff or whatever? And it's like you look at the content, it's like there's nothing there.
You know, I have two female cousins that we go back and forth. I don't know whose mic is that. We go back and forth, right? Because
Y'all
they
check your
don't like the
mics. Make sure
fact.
y'all on mute.
Yeah, they don't like the fact that I listen to Candace Owens from time to time. She's wrong about a lot, but when she talks about certain issues, she's right on point. So one of the cousins, so they're both at me because they're sisters, right? And I told them, I said, listen, you know, if you're going to have a conversation with somebody, you can't just look for people who agree with your point of view. I said, you got to be able to talk to people who think a little bit different than you, or else what's the sense of even having a conversation or a debate? You can't just say to somebody, I don't want to deal with you because they're saying something you don't like. I said, there's no growth in that, right? So one of the things that just putting it back to what we're talking about, you know, we tell women the same thing. I mean, we all know that women in general, Black women in particular, are hard-headed. You know, I mean, they like echo chambers. You know, that's why you could be grifted so easy. That's why, you know, you could be taken advantage of by bad actors. Like feminism is really a detriment to women, but to Black women in particular. And, you know, men have their own weaknesses too, but they're different. They're different. You know, some of us can take accountability. Does it make us better? No. But I think we're easier to recognize the fact that Black men back in the day were too susceptible to drugs, both selling them and using them. And Black men don't have no trouble kind of admitting that. You know, that's one of the things that was really bad in our neighborhoods. But, you know, it's hard to get a woman to take an L. That shit is like almost impossible. I mean, golly, you know, so, you know, I don't know, but every so often, you know, the L, you know, you could put some ketchup on the shit once in a while and, you know, eat it and say, okay, let's move on. You know, but anyway, I'm just joking on that part. But let me just land it there.
Thank you, Arpain. Arpain said you can put
throw that out
glitter.
there.
Arpain said you can put glitter on Dookie and make it shine and twinkle, but it's still gonna sting. Listen, Miss Jenny, prototype, welcome, sir. I'm gonna get to you right after Miss Jenny, okay? Because we have neglected her. Miss Jenny, I do apologize. We just been cooking.
It's okay. It's no problem at all.
Listen, I want to ask you a question, okay? Now, here's the thing. I think a lot of people are challenged with the roles of a husband. You know what I mean? A lot of women like to say they have this whole entire list of stuff that husbands should do. And I think Anissa alluded to it earlier. You know, Ray said a man's supposed to go out here and pay the bills and this and that other. But is there an emotional component of being a husband that is also just as important as well?
Absolutely. The Bible talks about how, you know, it talks a lot about the relationship between a man and a woman and a husband and wife. And it says that the way that a man is supposed to take care of his wife is that he's supposed to love her. And vice versa, a woman is supposed to respect her husband because that's how men receive love. And a man can't say that, oh, well, I went to work today, so I did all I need to do. Or, you know, I brought food home, or I provided, or I put this roof over your head. So that's, you know, that's all I need to do. And I don't need to tell you I love you because I told you on the day we got married. And if anything changes, I'll let you know. And, you know, that's not how a marriage is supposed to be. A man is supposed to, you know, look after his wife and be tender with her. And because men and women are different. And so it's not good enough just to provide carnal needs or provide material goods. You have to have an emotional connection and to really, you know, get to know your wife on a personal and intimate level.
That's a good answer. My question to you is this. Let's do the inverse. Now, Take Heed talked about Booty Hole Brown earlier. Okay. And all other colored things of the rainbow. You know what I mean? That women seem to be screaming from the rafters. My thing is this: how important is it for a woman to be tender to her husband? And do you think modern women today have gotten away from knowing how to be tender with their husband?
Absolutely. But I think that, I don't know if I would necessarily use the word tender with your husband, but I guess you could say that, because men, even if it's not as much, they still are emotional creatures.
Right.
So yeah, it is important to, walk with your husband as he might be going through something. Something traumatic might have happened to him where he needs a little bit more loving on him. He might need you to actually be tender with him. And so I think that a lot of times women, and it's like this weird double-edged sword. It's like a lot of women, they want their man to be emotional and to be able to be vulnerable with them. But then on the other hand, they a lot of times they see it as weakness, or they'll use it as a chink in the armor to try to get at their man when they're mad at him. And so I think that it is something that women need to do better at. They need to be better at being able to listen to their husband and to show genuine affection. I think that's a good word, to show affection to their husband, because he needs us there. We are to be his helpmeet, and we can't just provide him his carnal needs. We can't just provide food or provide sexual release. We have to be there emotionally for him too, whenever he needs it, even if it's not as much as we might need that.
Let me ask you a question.
On that point, can I ask you on that point, Miss Jenny, about a man working for his wife and the balance of being emotionally available? There's got to be a balance. Would you agree with that? What would you think that balance is? And how would you go about telling a man in a circumstance or a hypothetical circumstance of your guy, he works hard, not you personally, but a man who works hard for you and your family, and he's not giving you the emotional thing you need? How much of that, how much time do you think he needs, or is it a time dependent thing, or it's just being thoughtful in giving you that emotional piece that you need, whether it's takes 10 minutes or 10 hours? You know what I'm saying?
I think I understand what you're saying. Is like, if a man is providing financially, like, how much should I expect from him to give to me emotionally?
Well, how much do you require? It's going to be different from woman to woman, correct? So
Yeah.
how much would so how much is going to be enough, and how would he know he's doing enough, even though he's busting his ass 20 hours a day for the family? How do you satisfy a woman in that? I mean, how does a man know he's giving enough, and if he's not giving enough? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm just saying, if you were to suggest that to a woman out there who's thinking about, how do I get to that balance?
Right. Yeah, and that is a good question. And you want to say, oh, well, just communicate, and then you can talk to your wife and ask her what she wants. But a lot of the time, women don't know what they want, and so that is also a really
what
good
they want to
problem.
eat most of the time.
That's good. That's a good answer. You could ask. Yeah, that's true. You could ask. All right.
But I think that better than asking is to probably just listen, because ask directly what a woman wants, she probably won't give you in reality what she wants. She might give you something that she saw on Instagram, or she might give you something that she thinks. But if you let a woman talk long enough, then she'll tell you how she feels, inadvertently. And so I think that it's important for a man to listen to his wife. And I know that sometimes that can be difficult, because it's like, well, what's important and what should I really be listening to, and what's just kind of nonsense. But I think that you will get a lot more out of it, and you can have a much better balance with your wife if you're listening to her and she's talking, and she's like, oh, I saw this and I thought that was so nice and that was so pretty. Like last year, my husband, for our anniversary, he took me to the Botanical Gardens, which is a fancy garden in our area. And he surprised me with that, because I didn't tell him I wanted to go there, But in hindsight, I remember that it was something that I had talked about often. Like every time we would pass it, I would say, "Oh, that's so nice. I've never been there before. Wouldn't that be so cool if we went sometime?" And he just picked up on it. And so he knew that that would be something I would like to do for a special occasion. So I think stuff like that, not necessarily communicating like people say, but you have to be a good active listener.
Yeah, I got you. Thank you.
That was a good answer, because most guys will pick up on that, you know, if they paying attention. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sometimes people don't do that.
Mhm.
Do you think men actually drop hints like that and women pay attention to it? Like, I sure would like a sandwich today. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely
We
not.
don't drop.
Stomach
We're not
is
that. We're
growling.
not as good at dropping
Like
hints. though. We
SB
just
said,
tell
I
you
sure
straight
would
up.
like my feet rubbed today. You know what I'm saying? Well, let me ask y'all ladies a question. When was the last time y'all rubbed y'all man feet?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Exactly.
Last night.
Last night. Okay.
And I'm
I
about to
got
do
you.
it again tonight.
All right, then. That's what I'm talking about. You better rub them feet, girl. Prototype, welcome to the show, sir. Welcome to the
Man,
show.
I'm glad to be here.
Man, I'm glad you're here, man. I need you to add some stuff to this thing, man. What's going? How much of the show have you seen? I know you
Man,
walked in on the booty hole brown, and I'm
yeah,
pretty sure you
yeah.
figured out what was
Lip gloss brand, and the names for my lip gloss is something that nobody would have ever thought of. I got one called Nut, and it's the color of some nut. I got one called Gonorrhea. It's green like gonorrhea. I got one called Yellow Discharge, like how girls be having yellow discharge. Booty hole pink, booty hole brown, coochie juice, and coochie juice is clear with silver glitter. It's cute, like the cute, and it smells good, and it's so like, you know, people gonna talk but other people was like, you is a marketing genius because the sold so fast and it smell good too. I be thinking of all out the box. It's not even on purpose. It's just like my brain helped me think outside the box to do some crazy shit.
I mean, you gotta stay in your lane. You know what I'm saying? Like she belongs to a certain type of guy. You know what I'm saying? If that's not you, that's not you. Like stay in your lane, know what kind of guy you are. What kind of woman you are, you know what I'm saying? Me, I like a woman I can take to the Christmas party. That's my kind of woman. You know, if I can't take you to the Christmas party, you're not my style. That's
Right.
not my style. I'm not bringing her in front of nobody. You know, no bosses, no managers, no coworkers, no nothing. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I like a Christmas party kind of woman.
Right.
Stay in your lane.
We already know where she came from, man.
Hey,
She
but
belongs
she
to the
an
street.
executive,
You know
bro.
what I'm saying?
She an executive.
I think I do anything.
Let me ask
Come
you a
on,
question,
bro.
Prototype.
She's
You
an
walked in
influencer.
on this one, man. Ray asked Anissa earlier today. He said, "Where are we supposed to find these women?" And then Black Man just put up Miss Booty Hole Brown herself. You know what I'm saying? What do you say to the men who want to be married, but all they keep saying is Booty Hole Brown? What do you say to these guys who want to be married,
Who
but
want to
they're
be married?
surrounded by the Booty Hole Brown? They want to take
You
their
got you got to
wife to the
find
office
you
party.
know a good place to find them.
Where?
The church.
You know what I mean? The fellas ain't trying to go to church, man. Listen, Prototype. Listen, Prototype.
Hey, bro, come on now, dog. Come on, man.
They ain't trying to go, man. I'm keep trying to tell you. The instructions on how to keep your wife is at the church, but don't nobody want to go up in there. You know why?
Nah,
They ain't saying, they ain't giving the men what they need.
the church is a terrible place to meet women. I don't think so.
No, you was on a roll, man. But go ahead.
Man, the church is a terrible place. Like everybody wants the pastor, you know what I'm saying, or they're reformed. You know, they got you want to find high body counts, man. You find them in the church, dog.
In the church house?
In the front row.
In the front row?
The closer you get to the front, the higher the body count.
I take offense. I take offense.
No, I mean, like I said, like you just gotta, you know, get to know people. Sometimes it's a waste of time, you know what I'm saying? And other times, you know, it might work out. But like I said, I have very specific standards. You know, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, then even if it's a chicken, I'm gonna think it's a duck. You know what I mean? So
right.
I follow that rule. If it doesn't look good at the Christmas party, you know, that's step one. Does it look good at the Christmas party? If I can't take you to the Christmas party, then you know what I mean? It is what it is.
Right. You know what? I'm glad you said that, because the church house is full of women, single women. You know what I mean? And there's very, very few men. And I want to know why. Why do you think that is, Prototype?
Man, I think because church is, you know, feminized. You know what I'm saying? Like
talk on it.
It's missing a lot of masculinity. Like I would go to church. There's nobody like me. There's no masculine men that I would look up to in the church. You know what I mean? Like church is full of women, and the men that are in there, you know, are weak, soft, ran over. You know what I'm saying? They're just not masculine as I would need a somebody I would look up to be. You know what I'm saying? When you pastor and your pastor's like, you know, got the limp wrist or whatever, and the choir director is switching or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? There could be a multitude of things, but there's just not enough men that I would like, you know, that could be an example for me.
Right.
You're going to the wrong churches.
That's BS. I understand why you might say that, but that's really BS. Like,
I'm glad that's not my experience because I've been around a lot of masculine men.
We're not talking about
my ministry. Oh, thank you, Prototype. Thank you for excluding me then.
Yeah. Because I don't think you don't really got a dog in the fight. You know what I'm saying? What you might consider masculine is not what I would consider masculine, or that's not a guy I would look up to. Like I might look at the guys
would you consider a masculine man of God that's in leadership over a congregation. What do you consider that you would want to look up?
That's a good question.
If you, Mr. Bennett.
Oh,
you should look at the back, man.
No, I mean I don't really watch a lot of you know what I mean. Preacher, you know, the only guy I really like kind of listen to is he acts funny though, like so you know. It's like G. Craig Lewis. That's the only guy I like.
I like G. Craig Lewis. Yeah,
that's the only guy I really listen to. But cool. Even he could be like over there or over here sometime, like, or he's not serious. He cracks a lot of jokes. You know what I'm saying? So
you should. It's not a strict thing. Everybody, like how we say, we have emotions. We always be straight all the time. But what about, you know,
somebody said Farrakhan, right? And I want to bring up a point to that, right? I guess Quincy Firesense brought up Farrakhan, right? A lot of men run to Islam because they're looking for that structure. They're looking for, you know, that masculinity. They're looking for people in order. They're looking for order. You know what I'm saying? That a lot of Christianity is lacking. It's lacking the men of order. It's lacking the men of strength. It's lacking the men of masculinity. You know what I'm saying? And all those men seem to be, you know, Muslims. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of men, like when they're looking for changes, they're running to being a Muslim, even though I don't consider that the way. You know what I mean? But that's not, you know, that's my belief and not theirs.
I respect that.
Men are missing that kind of structure. Right. And back in the day, we used to have that structure where the pastors were men to look up to. Men that, you know what I'm saying, that you could trust, men that, you know, were masculine, that, you know, had a good solid family, you know what I mean, wasn't weird about their ways, you know what I'm saying, was straight cut forward, will help you move, like, you know what I'm saying, it was doing a bunch of men type of things, right? So it's kind of one of those things where, like, that's only seen, like I said, in other cultures, and it's lacking from ours.
Yeah,
I agree.
You know, well, I'm glad you said that. Go ahead, Ray.
I was going to say, I was like, it's not surprising that men have moved away from the church because the West has fallen. We live in a society. I mean, you guys say you believe in God, but you're not scared of your God. Y'all let people sit around and disrespect your God. You ain't going to roll over into any Middle Eastern country and talk about, they will come get you here, get you going up out of here for disrespecting their religion. And y'all sit around here and wonder why men aren't attracted to a religion that just gets walked over by the country that it tamed and founded. This is Christian land, and all we do is bag on that religion, and people let it slide.
Not a Christian nation. Never was. Never was.
I know we say that, but it's not.
And Freemasons. They founded the country.
No, 100%. But they ascribe the religious foundation. You can't have a civilization without religion, and the religion that they instilled here was Christianity.
No, it wasn't. Those guys, Jefferson, all those guys, they were not Christian.
Understood, Bennett. You missed what I said though. You can't have a civilization without religion. So the one that they instilled here was Christianity. You have to have a guide rail for the stupid people because most of the people are stupid. And I mean,
I agree with the first part of your statement, but not the
second. So when I say that it's a Christian country, I'm not saying that the people, because like they were like, we need something to give to these idiots.
Come on,
Christianity.
Mr. Bennett. Mr.
I
Bennett.
mean, if it was here before them doing that, that's not something that's idiotic. That's just a faith issue. People are they're always open because they're always seeking something higher than themselves. So the fact that people, again, as modern day relationships and modern day people screw up everything, it's the heart and intention of which they're delivering the message. Now, there's nothing wrong with the message. There's nothing wrong with Christianity. It's wrong with the
we
manipulation.
gravitate towards
That's why you don't
structure.
see the powerful men, because they don't live, like you said, they don't live by it.
Right. But at no point in history before now was people just bagging on Christianity the way that we disrespect the religion here with no consequence. You can't go do that. You can't go into the middle of China and bag on Buddhism. They'll get you up out of there. They'll get you up off this planet. Like because they believe emphatically in what they believe, which is why men are still a part of those religions. Men carry out, if there's going to be a consequence, men carry that out. You're not going to go into the Muslim part of your town where all the Arabs are and start talking bad about Allah and see if you walk out. You won't. And that's in this country. They care that much. They believe in their God. They fear their God. You can't sit here and say that we do when all the stuff you put on TV, man, all the stuff we do, they got a whole show about a gay Jesus. Like, what are we talking about? Christianity has lost. I'm surprised any men go to Christian churches. Like, it's not set up for that. Like, it's set up for women. Everybody wants to be fair. There's no standards. There's no line. There's no pushback. There's no discipline. If people want to be cats, well, we'll just figure out a way for Jesus to love cats too. That's not what it said. That's not what it said.
You must go to the wrong church.
You know what?
Right? It's like
okay, but wait. The wrong church argument.
One mic, yo.
One
mic.
Okay. The wrong church argument is not a good rebuttal because we're in a country. Is your church going out there and finding the people who made the gay Jesus video and making them hold them accountable? No, you're not. Your church ain't doing that either. You guys are going, oh, well, we'll just huddle up. But if somebody sits outside your church and says, fuck God, what are you going to do? Nothing.
But even if they did say that, he said that
God's going to deal with him, baby. Muslims will deal with you immediately. They'll show you God.
The thing is, they got the problem with God. They don't have a problem with me. It's a spiritual thing. You're
it's a relationship.
You're making it all carnal. Everything that you see in the world, and you know that. And what Jesus came to do is exactly what you're trying to say that he should have done. Those men back then, he's going to come, he's going to overthrow, he's going to come tear down walls. He didn't come for that.
Those societies aren't collapsing. Ours is.
But,
all right, Joe. I'm going to rein this one back in.
All I'm saying.
I'm going to rein this one back in. But
are bad in a spiritual way, but we don't look at that aspect of our lives, which is very important.
I'm gonna rein this back in. Speaking to what Prototype said, he said men are actually looking for guidance and wisdom. Mr. Bennett, how is it we are to serve those younger men that are looking for that leadership? What is it that we can provide for them so they can actually get the wisdom that they need? Because we already know this takes a lifetime. This is not something that you can get overnight.
Well,
as it ties into tradition, you know what I mean? Tradition versus what we got now.
Well, I think in the last 50 years, I think it has to be changed. You didn't have to worry about this 50 years ago or certainly generations ago, because the world that you grew up in was essentially a copycat, a photo of the one that came before it. So if you came from an agrarian society, if your dad was a farmer, you were going to be a farmer. The land that you grew up in was basically just passing from one generation to the next. But in the last 50 years, I think with technology and people having options, I think people, again, part of the issue with just tradition in general is that the world really doesn't necessarily operate off it. So you're saying, well, what worked for you, or you might have came out of the factory, you might have came out of a certain way of doing things or whatever, going to like I said, for us, if you're Gen X, it was go to school, get grades, go to college, get a career. And for a lot of people now, they're starting to question whether or not college should even be an option. Bump college altogether, learn a trade and do something else.
Mhm.
So I think part of if we're going to have relevance, I think if it's going to start with us, we have to recognize the new world that these kids are operating in. Understand that maybe some of the things that might have worked for us is not going to work for them. But we're so vested into what worked for us, we're not necessarily taking a look at the world that they're in. I mean, college is almost, I would almost say like if there's only a select few degrees that I would say, unless you're going for those, obviously you got to go to college, be a lawyer or a doctor.
Mhm.
Anything else is up for a game at that point. When I went to school, you weren't coming out of school with six-figure debt.
Mhm.
So now, so again, so we have to be able to again look at the world for not only what it is, but where it's going. Because again, generations before, your world was like that for hundreds of years and did not change. So it was easy to pass on skills, to pass on craftsmanship, to pass on things before. But they say now you go to college, freshman year, by your senior year, whatever you were learning was obsolete. So what we pass on that isn't necessarily a way of living, maybe a way of thinking, a way of process. But I think we have to, as Gen Xers, and we've had shows on this in terms of how we bridge the gap between Gen Xers and Gen Zers and millennials, is not trying to get these people to live in our world, but can we be the Yoda on the other side, basically saying, look, you gotta, this is your fight. You gotta, take the world as it is. Here's some principles that may help you along the way, but I can't walk this with you. You know what I mean? So really giving them the freedom. And like we talked about churches earlier. A lot of times I'm seeing a big disconnect in churches is when it comes to leadership, you got a lot of OGs just hanging on way too long. Like you can
Time to
have
bring somebody else up. You're right.
dude could be 90 years old, emeritus pastor, whatever. He's still running things, but you're not giving the younger generations an opportunity to take on and do things differently. So I think there has to be this balance here. Whereas wisdom is about some of the thought process that you need in making a decision, but you have to make it for the world that you're in. And I think that's one thing that for a lot of us older guys, especially if you're going to be critical of this new generation, understand this is not our generation. But they gotta run it. I'm in IT, so I'm still trying to stay in it. I'm competing with guys half my age for the same jobs. So I
Mhm.
can't go back to my COBOL days. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, Pascal, you know what I'm saying?
All that. It's like, look, they on a whole new thing. So I need to stay up with them more so than the other way around. But in terms of work ethic, in terms of discipline, in terms of uh,
Mhm.
uh, putting away distractions, yeah, I can impart that, but I can't tell you how to code. I don't know Java like that. Like some of these guys are doing now, whatever these other new languages is. Look, that's on y'all. So I think I think that the change in approach, how we approach young people, is one to recognize this isn't the 70s, this isn't the 60s or whatever. This is 2023. Are there some things that you can use here? I'm here if you need me. And I think one thing that was also said some time ago, I think the ages where we do mentorship have to get lesser. I mean, this idea of, we got Mr. Miyagi teaching young Daniel at 13, them days is over. Really, what we need to be doing, if I'm 50, I need to be talking to a 40-year-old. If you're 40, you need to be talking to a 30-year-old, not the kids. If you want to reach the kids, we need some 20 somethings to be talking to these young kids. So there
I
has to
think
be, because I
what
work,
we,
because someone put it to me, I was like, let you go in a minute, JT. I always talk about, you have a father in the house if you have a father in the house, but if you have a brother, the father's the authority in the house. He sets the moral code in the house. But the big brother is the influencer. That's
Mhm.
the one more than likely you want to be like your big brother. So again, that same principle goes to mentorship as well. I shouldn't be working with young people. But a guy who's about 35 to 40, I got guys who I talk to now. They're 38, 40 years old, got two kids, 8 and 12, and he's just going through like, man, what do you do? he's going to be more receptive to what I have to say than a 17 or a 21-year-old. They're not feeling me like that. So I think we also need to also recognize where we can be effective. And no, I can't go saving kids. Kid wants to hang around me, he could. I'm not going to stop him, but that's usually not going to happen. But a guy who's he can kind of see me. I got kids. My youngest is 20. It's like, all right, I kind of see where he is. I can see him. You know what I mean? So like, how did he get to? I'm about to go into these teenagers, the kids. What'd you do to get through it? So I think we also need to recognize where we can be effective, and it's not necessarily trying to save every generation. Start with the generation that came just before you, or those who are in your generation, maybe about 8 to 10 years younger than you, and then you could possibly have some influence, and then have that domino down. And I think that's really needs to be done in these spaces.
The
Thank you.
millennials are definitely stepping up for the Gen Xers because y'all failed us.
And like you're right, I can't deny that.
I mean, but even when you talk about that, there is. I'm a land.
No, go ahead, JT. Then we're gonna go back to Take Heed,
even when
then
you,
R-Pain.
Right. So even when you're speaking on that, that's a big issue right there. Gap, generation gap. There should not be a generation gap. R-Pain, how old are you?
I'm 65.
He's 65. I have a friend that's about he just turned 60. He's a boomer, but he's only 9 years older than me. He's only 9 years older than me. There should not be a generation gap. So it goes to what Mr. Bennett was saying. I'm 50. I shouldn't be talking to a 17-year-old and mentoring him. I've already been mentoring. I was mentoring when I was 25. I was mentoring 19-year-olds. I was mentoring. Now that I'm 50, me mentoring, they don't understand my language. And I damn sure don't understand their language. I have a brother that I'm 8 years older than. Absolutely what Mr. Bennett was saying. He wasn't trying to, it was like, shit, in order for my father to actually get through to him, he had to get it through me.
Exactly. Yeah.
He had to get it through me. And
you were the buffer. You were the buffer. You were that translator to get. And again, your brother, again, you didn't even have to work that hard. He just saw you moving. He saw you talking to girls. He saw you driving your first car. Man, I want to be like, can't be around you all the time. You know what I mean? So those are the connections that need to be built.
So somebody is silent. It's not just a, silent generation to boomers, to X, to millennials, to, it's a smooth transition we have, but somebody being silent. Somebody ain't saying something in this motherfucker. We gonna find out who been hiding their hand. It's not a gap, but this is what happened. It's been treated like it's a gap. And I think it comes from, I think that you have older people that want to be young. I think that too. You got a lot of older people that's still hanging with young folks, or they idolize young people. They look up to people that's younger than them. They're trying to live a life that they've actually outgrown, or at least supposed to outgrow. Those are the silent ones. Those are the ones that ain't
still
saying
going
shit.
to the club. They still going to the club.
Yeah, those are the ones that's not saying something.
Hold up a second. There ain't nothing wrong with the club.
Like when you 54, look, your game, you should have graduated from the club, bro. That's not your scene anymore.
No, that's when you get the tables and all the hoes. What are you talking about? Those are the guys that are getting laid.
That is not when you find a wife, sir.
You're trying to be a pimp, sir.
Ray.
Come on, Ray.
And bottles and shit. I got a damn budget. I ain't buying no damn bottles.
Come on, Ray.
150% more in the damn club, and you see people walking around buying those damn bottles. Something you can buy at the store,
Costco,
right? For $40. They paying $200, $195. Some of them paying $500 for champagne.
Just messes up the
Champagne.
church's money.
And Ray, you've been to the club long enough. You see those guys
That's
at the
not
club.
what a
You be like,
grown
that
man do.
You see that guy at the club. You like that poor guy, man.
Yeah, I know, but it's
you're not
great.
fancying that
Hey,
guy.
listen,
man. You're not.
Mr. Bennett. But when I got an itch, it's great for me. I don't care about how happy they are.
We got
I'm
grown
on a
folks.
mission. All
We got grown folks that
with a
should be-
backpack on.
Listen,
Some
we got
damn
grown
skinny
folks.
jeans.
We got grown folks that should be singing "Walk with me, Lord, walk with me." You know what I'm saying? But they in there singing "Booty Hole Brown." You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, they dropping like it's hot,
How
man.
we
They dropping
how we supposed to move our society forward with "Booty Hole Brown"? You know what I'm saying?
Please forgive me.
Ain't nothing sadder than a 50-plus-year-old woman in the center of the dance floor still trying to twerk it.
Oh,
Nothing
man.
sadder than seeing that.
Throw her knee out.
That's bad. That's bad. That is bad.
I ain't seen that happen yet, but if I do, I'm pulling the phone out. I'm gonna go live on it. Y'all see me go live on a Saturday night. Somebody knee went out.
So I just want to give just a little pushback, but a little understanding as well, Miss Jenny. So yes, my
you've
dear.
been saving that
So,
one.
yeah, I had to save that one. It stayed in my
I have to move this thing a little faster. Come on.
So now what happened was when Miss Jenny said that she dropped hints to her husband about going to the botanical gardens, right? That's beautiful, but I'm gonna share something with you. That takes too long. We need to start learning how to tell our men what we would like, what we need in a marriage. Because if you don't tell your man what you need in a marriage, this creates chaos. I always tell people on my channel, you got to learn how to talk to your husband. Because say if now I have to jump on this real quick. Say if you're not being satisfied well in the bedroom, right, with your husband. And you got that work husband, okay? That work husband that's talking in your ear. Now, this can be for Christian, Muslim, I don't care. I'm just letting you know this can happen, okay? You got the work husband in your ear talking to you like he crazy, and your husband is not tending to you at home like you would like him to be. Instead of you going outside trying to get that fulfillment, talk to your king. Tell him, honey, this is what I like. I need you to please me this way. I need you to do it this way. You get better results when you talk to him. Oh, I want to go here. I want to go to New York this weekend. I want to go to a play. I want to go to the Jazz Fest. You know what I'm saying? It's better to talk to him instead of dropping hints, because sometimes they don't catch it because they so busy trying to maintain the home, trying to maintain the job as well. So sometimes they miss those hints. I remember my husband told me, like in our second year of marriage, he said to me, baby, I need you to explain. Stop dropping those hints at me. Explain it to me what you need me to do. And then also, I gotta touch on this real quick too. The church has been derailed and the church has been disgraceful to God. Okay? Because we have some pastors up here that will sit up here and say they don't know if God disagrees with the alphabet community. But
all right now.
But in the Bible, it says God said it's an abomination. Just like we'll get up here and have the deacon and deaconess who are married to different people, they doing nonsense and they sitting up there preaching no fornication. They sitting up there preaching no adultery. So yes, the church has failed in many ways, but you got to look to God. The church is not your God. You got to look to God. This is the thing that we miss in our culture, because we will get mad with the church and then turn around and stop talking to God. God did not tell the church to do that nonsense. He did not. He gave you a book of instructions on what to do. But as Christians, sometimes we get mad with the church. So now we stop talking to God. And that is not the right thing to do. Now we can blame the church for doing nonsense, yes. But we can't blame God for the stuff that they're doing because God gave man free will. Now they will sit up here. And do nonsense all on social media talking about they don't know if God is like this. They don't know if God is like that. But the Bible say what God is. But we sit up there and act like we don't know the assignment. So yes, I believe we do play with God. And this is what we do. After we got into some nonsense and we standing on a pulpit doing foolery on a pulpit, and then when God get angry and decide to expose you, then you want to come to social media and cry, woe is me. But God had already sent you dreams nights before that he told you to stop your nonsense. But you kept saying you're not going to get caught. This is why a lot of pastors get exposed. A lot of deacons get exposed. A lot of deaconess get exposed as well. And a lot of ministers that are women get exposed on social media because they play with God. And then when he comes to collect, then they want to come on social media and cry. So yes, in the Christian religion, we do play with God too much. We do. It's not even funny. You got that young boy up there. He was in a dress with another R&B singer from our time back in
Billy Porter.
Okay, with the Bible, holding the Bible. Now I don't even know if that was a purse or if he just held the Bible like that. But was Christians outraged? No. What they said is, judge ye not, and ye shall not be judged. This is what we do in Christianity. And then we want to turn around and look at God and say, oh God, can you say something? Can you do something? God gonna work in the spirit. He gonna do his job. He gonna do his job. We don't need to do God's job. God gonna do his job. But the thing, as his children, we supposed to say something. I'm not saying you crucify your brothers and sisters, but I'm saying we supposed to say something. And in the Muslim religion, and I know some of y'all gonna get mad when I say this. In the Muslim religion, they speak about it. They not scared. They speak about it because these pastors' collection plate ain't full. They don't speak on certain things. They do not. They want you to be jumping around in the church and be excited during the whole sermon. Let me share something with you. God's word is sweet and bitter. How is it the word is sweet every Sunday if God's word is sweet and bitter? That means they only preaching from some part of the Bible that get them that collection plate full.
Here comes the money. Here we go. Money talk. Here comes the money.
That's my take on it.
You cooking
Right,
now. You know,
Kiki. Thank you, sis.
Hey,
or they doing the stuff that they want to
She
preach
went
about,
in.
but they can't because they doing it. Yeah.
Ooh, take heed. You did that. I appreciate that.
Take heed.
Yes. Our pain. Let me ask you a question, sir.
Yes,
You
sir.
heard what Take Heed said. You know what I mean? That people are failing.
Oh, Jesus.
Look at this. You know, Mr. Old Town Road himself. You know what I'm saying?
Oh Lord.
Looking like a church woman.
First lady. Listen, our pain. I got a question for you, man. You heard what Take Heed said earlier. You know what I mean? How sometimes leadership can fail us. How important is it for us to teach our men to be intellectually nimble so they can take in what they need to take in and use it for what they need to use instead of asking for a particular blueprint? How important is that?
Well, it's very important. It's just a matter of finding the men who are receptive to do that. So what I'm saying is, I mean, we're out here, but where are they? See, because if there were more men who were receptive to being leaders, I think the women that we have in our sphere wouldn't be squawking as much, right? So, yeah, that's what I think. So it's important for each one to teach one, but I don't think enough men are, because of the situation we're in, and I hate to blame it on single parenthood, but men are not being shaped to be those leaders, not in great quantity anymore as the generations coming forward. I mean, if you look at millennials, you look at Gen Zers. I mean, if we were going to correct that, we would have had to correct it with Gen Xers for the most part. But when you look at millennials and Gen Zers, where are the guys who are looking at leadership from that standpoint when most of them are emotional and don't have enough examples of leaders, in proximity to teach them? So because I'm convinced if we had a country full of men that were leaders, then I think there wouldn't be no gender war. It wouldn't be. All the stuff that we have now is because we have a chaotic marketplace, a relationship marketplace, and that belies the fact that we don't have enough men who are leading in the marketplace. I think, and I say this, and I get some pushback, but our marketplace is governed by the promiscuity of the women in it. And there's a relationship between men's need for sex and women's promiscuity. And the more promiscuous the women are, the more out of control men are, because men want to have sex. So men get manipulated, and they're not really thinking about being leaders. I really think even men who want to get married for the wrong reasons.
Right.
Not because they want to lead a family, it's because they see a woman with some big jugs and nice ass, and they think they're going to marry that for a lifetime. So the divorce rate is somehow related to the fact that half of those marriages should have never happened in the first place. So I mean, so you're correct. Men should be leaders, but you need to have ammunition to train them, and it's less and less almost every year. They say in Gen Z, 20% of the people in Gen Z are fluid genders.
Gender fluid.
Gender fluid.
Yeah, gender fluid. Yeah,
they fluid, all right.
20%.
Lots of fluids going around our.
Yeah. So what I'm saying, so where are the leaders coming from? So I hear you. It should be that way, but it's not. How do we get it back?
A lot of people got to die and suffer.
It's spaces like this. It's men starting to being willing to take the criticism and saying, this is how it's supposed to be a man. Here's the things that you need to be looking at, and we need to do it better than we're doing it right now in the manosphere, because a lot of times it's reduced to just bashing women. And that's not how we're supposed to do it. We need to be telling men, here's the square for you to stand on. And it's okay to be able to accept a woman who's making money and still maintain leadership if you know how to do it. And how to do it is you can't have your pride on every little thing. Yeah, it's okay for you to cook a meal. Yeah, it's okay for you to do your own clothes and the laundry. Yeah, it's okay to listen to her, but you have one square to stand on. Just stand on your leadership and be willing to walk away if she don't want to listen. And and I tell men now, and we have to. You gotta, if you have means before marriage, you gotta have a prenup. If you're a man of means to get married to a woman who's not equally yoked financially, you have to have a prenup, or else your marriage is not on equal footing. Because she has a loaded gun. The state has a prenup for you, and it's not in your favor. So I tell men that all the time. They don't agree, but it doesn't matter. You need to protect yourself in marriage. You just have to, because women can love you today, and tomorrow they ain't happy, and then they kick your ass, and you never say, "Well, I never knew this person." So I mean, it's all ties together. So that let me land it there before I start rambling. Okay,
I'm gonna go to JT this time. because he looked like he chomping at the bit. You know, he want to say something. JT,
I always got something to say.
yeah, you heard what Arpain said, man. You know what I mean? Let me ask you this: when men want to be husbands, okay, and they're looking for leadership and guidance, that type of thing, but at the same time, they're seeing, you know, women wanting them to hold them to a specific standard, but they don't know who to reach out to. What is the purpose of your community and how they should actually talk to young men on how to groom them being husbands? Because there are a lot of things that's being left out. What do you tell these young men that want to be husbands?
So let me get the question straight.
Yeah.
You're saying that as far as like mentorship,
Right.
who should be in that?
Right.
Well, first and foremost, I'm kind of like at a loss during these times right now, right? Because normally it wouldn't hard to have men that want to be married where they can talk to uncles,
Right.
that even, you know, probably people they work for, you know, their peers, other men, you know, whether it's the barbershop or whatever, you're always going to find a gem in every conversation you have with men. That's what I did. Being in the military, had a whole bunch of mentors when it came down to that. Wasn't just career. It was a lot to do with mentoring me in my first marriage, because I got married at 22.
Right.
So I had to have a lot of guidance with a lot of men that were, and it wasn't that you know, like their marriage was so on point, but they can see from the outside in because they wanted to be married.
Right.
You know, they made mistakes just like, you know, I was making my mistakes, but they were a little more advanced than I was. So with again, it goes back to what Mr. Bennett was saying. You can't have a 50-year-old man talking to a 22-year-old man when it comes down to marriage.
They can't relate.
It's not a smooth transition with that. We'll be talking about something that we went through a long time ago because of how the communities were versus what's now. It's like the software is just old when we get to talking to them about that. Now, what we can talk to them about, this is being the Yoda, is you can tell them about personal, you know, development, right? Like men, no matter how old you are, you can always challenge another man to his personal development when you're an elder. That's just what it is. You know, that's why you will hear a lot of Southern, I love my Southern elders, right? Because they probably had broken English, but they always told you something that was just very, very smart. And it
Right.
wasn't smart because it was like something that was deep. No, it actually wasn't. It was something that gave you simplicity. That's what Southern people do. They give you simplicity when it comes down to it. So when we're talking about young folks, especially these young folks now, I'm telling you right now, as a man that's in his 50s, I'm lost. I have 2 daughters. I can only give them personal development. I can tell them, you know, I can lead them into personal development. But when it comes down to how they pick these men now, the best thing I can tell them is to bring that man towards not just me, but you got an uncle too. You got a couple of uncles that you could bring him and vet him through the men in your family.
That's it.
Stop being scared to do that, because you keep going the wrong direction trying to bring them around your friends. That ain't gonna work.
Your
You
friends
bringing them
gonna tell you
around
what
your
you want to hear.
aunties, that definitely ain't gonna work, right? You bringing them around men that also, because one thing that I can tell my daughters is I might be the only man in your life that don't want shit from you, that wants you to do better. That's it.
SB says, so you're saying that the blueprint for marriage has changed?
No, the ideology of marriage, the blueprint for marriage has been lost. We was talking about that earlier, SBU. It has been lost. We don't have a blueprint that is something where a person can work from right now, right? The ones that do have it, they were lucky. That's the only thing I can tell you right now. But you have so many people that's going against the grain, where when they get into marriage, they have no concept of what their marriage is supposed to be about, because they had no concept of how they were supposed to date. A lot of people, you can't tell them to date, to court, to marry. They're dating to waste time. They're screwing each other and eating.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
They
they're
just
doing.
don't want to be alone.
And then once they get mad and upset with each other, now they go on social media so they can complain indirectly about that person that they're having. And then you have other people to judge them on their decisions, and then they get to arguing, and then they end up having a podcast, and they ain't doing nothing but complaining about all men and all women. All men and all women. They lost the value of relationship. Blueprint ain't gone. Blueprint there. It's there. It's our ideology of it. It's the same way on how when people say times have changed. No, time is relative. It's our thought that changed collectively, and we agreed upon these things. That's basically how that goes. Not times, our thoughts. I'm gonna end right there. I'm gonna land it.
Thank you, J2. Anissa, I'm going to ask you, that leads into my next question. Anissa, the name of the show is Has Traditional Marriage Ruined Modern Day Relationships? Now, let me ask you a question. Are there negative aspects of tradition in relationships and in marriage?
Repeat the question again, the end part.
Yeah. Are there negative aspects of tradition in relationships and marriage?
I'm a traditional person. I believe in traditional marriage. So I think that if you're looking at it from a modern perspective, which most people probably have a modern mindset and probably are in modern relationships, you would probably see traditional as negative, a lot of the aspects of it. So in that regard, in the society that we are in today, I think that they probably see it as having a lot of negativity. I don't see the negativity because I have a traditional mindset.
Quick question. In your mind, what would be something that people would consider to be negative in a traditional relationship?
Well, and if you have a modern mindset and you believe in modern relationships, you're not going to probably even like the hierarchy in a traditional relationship, because the head of it is God, Christ, and then it's the spouse. Whether that's, if you're the husband, after God is your wife. It's not your children. It's not your job. It's your wife. And then on down the line. The same with a wife. First is God, and then it's your husband.
You know what,
So
I hear
the hierarchy of a traditional relationship.
Right. I hear so many women, telling men,
I'm a PhD.
I'm a PhD. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to get married. You know what I mean? They're telling men that their job and their role and their position in academia is more important than marriage. What would you say to those particular women?
Oh, I totally disagree. I think that there's nothing wrong with those things. I think it's nothing wrong with accomplishing any of those things. But I think that if you desire to be a wife, if you desire to be married, that is definitely not more important than your marriage. It's not more important than your husband or your family. So
Okay.
I think that perspective is totally wrong.
Thank you. Wife school. With these changes in modern day relationships, there are a lot of changing expectations of who does what and what does, who does what and what and all this other stuff. Quick question. Are expectations of relationships changing today? And if so, why?
I believe so. The aspects of expectations is changing because I believe we've become more selfish um, in a lot of aspects, and more transactional in our relationships. Uh, I do this and we keep count, we keep score type of thing, instead of just saying like, this is my marriage and I love to do these things. These are my duty. I'm honored to take your boots off and rub your head or fix you food or make sure that you have shelter over your head. I think that a lot of people have just made it and diluted it down to just a tit for tat and keeping track of things. And when I'm not feeling a certain way, or when you're not buying me those Chanel bags anymore, well, I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. So
He don't love you no more because he ain't
yeah,
buying
you
you no
don't love me no
Chanel.
more. So it's so bad. And I think because the superficiality and the commercial aspects of relationship and the social media and all these distractions have really just diluted just the simple things, and the beauty of marriage and the covenant that a man and women can have, despite if they have a lot of things or if they have nothing. Because the marriage and those two people, that's what you came together for. Essentially, was that man. Secondarily, yeah, we recognize he's able to provide and protect for you, or that she's beautiful, or she's intelligent, she can raise children to instill in them culture, and that she can read, those types of things. But I think we just got away from a lot of things. There's a lot of outside voices, and that's what's changing everything.
Thank you. Ray, quick question, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Earlier, R. Payne said that you want to make sure you find somebody who's financially equally yoked. Let me ask you a question. How hard is that for a man like you to find someone who's financially equally yoked as you? And also, if she was financially equally yoked, what would you provide to her in this relationship, since she has
I'm a PhD.
she got her money in her PhD? How would she serve you, and how would you serve her in this capacity?
So that's pretty interesting, because I've dated quite a few high value women in my time. Generally speaking, it's the intellect, the ability to have a good conversation, that strong pipe. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, let's keep it real. I'm a man of many skills. So, but the reality of it is, it's hard to find somebody that's equally yoked at this point. But like when it comes to mindset, so like you can get through the intellectual piece of it, but with younger women that are getting to the bag, it becomes a perception issue with their social group. So what happens is you'll have these younger chicks that are out here that are getting to the bag, and they've got a social group of boss babes that are getting to the bag. And so like my point of context is white women in this case. And they'll have their social group, and generally what you'll have is like they'll be married, which passes the first red flag test for me. I'm like, what's your social group looking like? Okay, these women are all so successful. They're getting to the bag. And then you start meeting the husbands, and they're just these like completely neutered white men that it's like I'm their favorite person to see, because I'm bigging them up about anything that they're doing, because I'm like, I see the situation that's going on. I'm like, this woman's broken you, and I don't like it. And it creates an issue within the social group, because they're just like, oh, well, this idiot over here did this and hurt himself. I'm like, no, that's freaking awesome, dude. Like, that's the man shit. Like, dope. And they're just like, well, why are you saying that? And I'm like, because you're not going to tell me what to say, because I'm a man. Like, oh, like, what are you going to do? You going to fight me, bitch? Like, what are we talking about? Like, so that's the issue, is like the culture that they're in at that point, because like they've created this boss bitch culture. And I think that transcends race. Like, it's like they create a social circle that has a certain set of beliefs. They're normally very far left to the point of stupidity, and they have a reinforced insulated shield around that belief system. And they're like, oh, well, we're doing good. And it's like, Yeah, but you're going to be a spinster. Like, that's fine. Like, you got the one chick that found a dude that's married, but like, also what you'll see is these women will want to date a reckless Ray, but then they'll also, for the comfort aspect, because they have to be the leader, they will go find lesser men. And then just, they'll go deal with that, and then they'll divorce those men. And then continue that cycle, and they'll go from lesser man and go find a man, but I can't deal with this, so I'm going to go find this lesser guy that I can just walk all over. And it's because they want the perception of authority. They want the perception that they're in control. They want the perception that they have power. And I've talked about this multiple times, and it's just an age-old thing. They're like, oh, well, like, we can do it too. And I'm like, okay, so if there's a bunch of people robbing the house next door and we're doing community patrol, are you going to go in there and fight those men yourself with your body in your hands and your titties? You taking all that in there to go fight this dude? Are you going to, when you call the cops, are you expecting a strong, independent woman to show up and resolve this problem and get this problem that you got in your face up out of here? Or do you want the most brolic looking man who's toxically masculine by your definition to show up and whoop some ass? Which is it? Because that's what it comes down to. Now, I will say this. If you're into older women, though, you can find an older boss woman, and that would be perfect as long as you don't want kids. Because I've had that too, and it was pretty damn nice. Actually, really damn nice, not going to lie. But if I'm going to get married, I want kids, and like I wasn't going to get a kid out of her, so like that didn't work. But I'll tell you this, like if you're trying to, like, the older women understand, like they know how to act because they've already been through kicking the dude out that they could walk all over. And I mean, I've experienced that too. Like I'm in bed with a chick and she's describing everything that she likes in a man. And I'm like, I looked over at her and I'm like, you just described your ex-husband, but you're fucking me. And I'm nothing like that guy. But that guy also wasn't, all those character traits that you just listed off do not make a man that's going to go out there and do what's necessary. It creates a weak man who's going to mooch off of you because you're doing well. I mean, it's just, you get what you ask for, but like, you can't cherry pick these men. Like, a man is a man is a man, period. A man that's respected by other men, he just has some character traits. He's going to have some rough edges. It's just what it is. Like, there's no such thing as a sophisticated thug. It's just not real. It's not real. I'm sorry, ladies. Like, it's not real.
Thank you, Ray. Jen, I can't let you follow Ray. Prototype. What say you, sir? I know you heard the commentary. I know you got something on your mind. What's on your mind, sir?
Man, sheesh. Ray just had a time. The traditional marriages ruin modern day relationships.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Traditionally, I think everything, was working correctly. I mean, I could throw it out there like the government destroyed our family. You know what I mean? To be clear, right? But the one problem I have with the, to take it back to like the Gen Xers, but y'all let them. Y'all let the government destroy our family. So that's my problem I had with Gen X. Like, why wasn't they strong enough to to win that war? You know what I mean? So modern day relationships now, I think we still want those same values that we once were doing traditionally. There's a lot of us like that, but and that's until men step up and start taking the lead, there's no way back to it. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
as long as we're expecting women to do anything, uh, it's going to just keep going and going and going because they just don't have the fortitude to get it back together. You know what I'm saying? So when men step up and start wanting traditional marriages and traditional relationships and our family back and our neighborhoods back, that's who's going to have to make the change, and it's not going to change until then. A lot of guys are going to say, "Oh, it's the women in this," or "I can't do everything," or blah 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 blah, and we just got to stop making excuses and do what men are supposed to do. So.
Right.
Look at all the women. Look at all the women. See, true.
They agree.
I know they agree because
Right.
they can't argue the logic. Like they'll scream independent and all this other stuff all day. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
it's both of us, or you know what I'm saying? Or the men do it too. Like they never, that's what I'm saying.
It's so true, prototype. I mean, I get on some of these panels, and even me just agreeing with a man is a problem.
Oh, for sure. But
it's because you're advocating for slavery, wife school.
I know. Let's get back in those chains.
It's slavery, but it's really not. Like, it's wild. You see all the memes and stuff, and women wish to be like. There's a popular meme out there where the dude is like thinking they're walking through an airport or something. And the dude is thinking all this stuff, and the girl's like walking next to him, just thinking about some goofy song. Like not using her brain. There's a reason why that meme that's popular. You know what I'm saying? Women, like, they always complain. They always like are bragging about being a passenger princess. They don't want the leadership. They don't. Even though they scream all this extra stuff, they're only screaming that because they can't get it. You know what I'm saying? They can't get a man that they want that'll take care of them. Blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? But they don't want to be in control. Like they're looking at us. Well, it's both of us. There's both of us. Like, you know what I mean? And that's their way of saying it's you. It ain't both of us,
Right.
it's you. And we need to go ahead and accept that it's us. And we need to tell them what to do. They want to be led. They hate thinking for themselves. So, yeah.
Thank you, Prototype. Jenny, I got a question for you. Okay.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Let's say that Prototype is the prototype. Okay. And I don't know how to fix that up. Let's say he goes out, he gets his job, he's made a man of himself. You know what I mean? How do we get women to show this type of man the respect that he's deserved? I hear in these streets, in these conversations, how men aren't this and men aren't that. And Kevin Samuels brought to the table that, yes, there are men out here doing it, and it's a high value man. And I think it turned that conversation upside down on its ear from, hey, you ladies shouldn't be concentrating on Pookie, but night after night, they were calling in, wanted to know how they can get a high value man. My question to you is this: even though men like Prototype are doing what they're supposed to do, how do we get women to see the value in this man instead of focusing on a man that's lesser than them?
Well, to say that, I mean, that requires to go kind of far back, because these women, they don't start off liking these Pookies and these Ray Rays. It's a learned behavior. This is trained in them. Something that they saw their mom do, or their older sister, or their aunt do. Like, I was listening to something earlier today, and it was basically saying there was a woman, and she was talking about how the song "You Better Call Tyrone" by Erykah Badu, that was not a song based on her own personal experience. That was a song based off of what she heard her aunts talking about when she was younger. And so these women, they see that growing up, they see the Pookies in the right ways, and I guess they feel like that's what they deserve because that's what the women in their life had. So they feel like this is what I'm worth. So this is what I should aspire to, or this is the atmosphere that they're around. Like maybe they grew up in a low income area. So the Pookies and the Ray Rays were just the local guy down the street, or maybe in like, in like hood areas. Those are the kind of guys that are popular. And of course, women are hypergamous. So they want to be with the guy who's at the top of the food chain. So they think that, oh, this is a great guy, or, this is who I want to be with. And really, he's trash.
And he's on top of the Pookie pile. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. And so when a woman meets a quality man, like a Prototype or what have you, then, I don't know, it's like this weird, like she short circuits because she wants him and she likes the idea of him, but it goes against all that she's learned and all that she's been brainwashed to think that she wants in the past. And so, they meet a man like that and they're not ready. And I think he said it, I think you were saying it earlier that or maybe it was Mr. Bennett. How one of you were saying that, a woman. Oh no, it was JT. He was saying like he'll bring everything to the table and he'll lay all his cards out and he is ready for a relationship. And the woman, she's actively sabotaging it, and she's trying to come up with every excuse that she can to make it so that when she leaves, she has a valid reason because she wasn't ready. She was not in the right mental space for a serious man who really had his stuff together and all his ducks in a row. So then she's gonna say like, oh, he was doing too much. He was love bombing me. Oh, he was too clingy, or he was too serious and he didn't know how to have a good time, or whatever they're telling themselves to cope. And so, yeah, to fix the problem of women not being ready or not being serious for a serious man, I mean, it's going to be a generational thing. It's not going to be something that's going to happen overnight.
So what you're saying is that the men are the ones who are prepared, and the women are the ones who feel like they're not prepared. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, men are the ones who are prepared, and women think that they are, but they're really not. Because I think that when you look at the grand scheme of things and how marriages and how the relationship between men and women have degraded, it's definitely the women who have fallen away from their role a lot more than men have. And so there are a lot of men who are very similar to their dad and very similar to their grandfather. And they work and they want to provide and they want to have kids and they want to be at home and they want to be monogamous. And that's very common with what you see throughout history. While women are so vastly different from their, maybe not their moms, but like their grandmas and their great grandmas, it's definitely the women who have stepped out of their role much more so than the men. And so it's the women who are the ones who are more often than not ready, even though that's not what you hear. You hear them saying, oh, I'm ready and all these men are trash or whatever, but it's really the opposite.
It's the cost. It's women don't want to pay the cost to have a kind of man like that. They look at it as a cost, and then they don't understand what the benefits are. So when they do that analysis, Pookies and Ray Rays don't cost them anything but their lifetime if you get pregnant by one of those assholes, right? But for a man who has stature, it's a cost. That's the why a woman like Nicki Minaj would marry a guy who's just made himself into a big idiot on social media the other day.
Right.
Why would a woman who's a queen of rap marry a guy who's talking about stupid shit like he was talking about? Because she didn't want to pay the cost to marry a man who would be her equal or better. Because you can't walk around and do the shit that you want to do married to a man like that. Same thing with Keke Palmer. So it's a cost for a woman to have a man on his square. It's not free. It's just not free.
Too much.
So let me.
I'm
sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just
I
saying.
was going to say that I think it's actually very fitting that Nicki Minaj is with that man, because Nicki Minaj is a very unserious woman. I don't know why a man who is wealthy and professional and serious would want to end up with a woman like that. I hear that. I think that they're actually very equal to each other. She's a clown and he's a clown.
True.
I guess water seeks its
own
own
level. Bad example, but you know what I'm talking about.
But there's a lot of women that like a lot of guys that are fit. They're single because certain women will come up to them or they'll approach a woman and she'll look at him like, "Oh, you eat right, you take care of yourself. Nah, you're gonna be expecting that from me. I'm good." You know what I'm saying? So
she used to being thick, huh?
she gonna be looking at you. She will look at your abs or your muscles and be like,
"But that's what they want, prototype.
You go for a night, but you probably want me to eat chicken breast and broccoli, huh?"
Right.
There's nothing wrong with a little meal plan.
Drinking,
I ain't doing that.
You know what I'm saying?
I want to be
What
going
they say, prototype? They say, I'm big that back.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. The back, right.
The back bigger. You know what I'm saying?
Like nah. But they always
you hit that on the head right there, bro.
Like you ever notice like even fit women will end up with like just a sloppy guy with money. Because
you're right.
It's the same thing. He doesn't require her to change or to be anything more than just fit. You know what I'm saying? And she could be the arm candy, but it's just one of those things. Like, I don't know. Like,
He can be
women
the
don't want to
sugar
change.
daddy.
It's too much accountability. There's accountability over
It's
there. I
gonna
don't
get
want
exhausted. It's gonna...
So
I
basically, what
can't
you're
keep
saying
this up for
is
6
that
months.
so what you're saying is that the reason why we having problems with traditional marriages and relationships now is the fact that nobody on both sides of the aisle want to be held accountable to the other person. Is that a fair assessment?
No, women don't want to be accountable.
Yeah.
Women
No, I
Men
think
don't mind being accountable. Women
prototype though. Listen, bruh,
What's your
these men are running around dysgenic as fuck.
See, here we go.
Regularly.
Here we go.
They are. They are.
You know,
They are. Look,
I'm not
listen.
disagreeing with you, Reckless. Sometimes I'll go outside. It's the echo chamber, right? And I would consider, like, I'm always in conversation with Lost or Mr. Payne, or,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? You come up on these panels, and even on my own show, it's positive guys, and we're all thinking alike as far as for the most part. You know what I'm saying? And then you get to have these conversations outside that circle, and you be like, "What? These dudes really?" And he be like, "I understand the women are what they're complaining about, because this dude's soft is warm butter." Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just don't understand it on how, like, they just don't have no passion, they don't got no goals, they don't got nothing set ahead of them. You know what I mean? You be like, "Oh, they're lost." Like,
And it's by design though. Like, I'm not saying that it's like, if men in this system right now, regardless of what race you are coming out of these school systems lost, told they're worthless, with no direction, and told that if you have a direction or you stand on any type of anything, you stand up for anything that's not women's rights or the letter mafia, you're toxic, you're bad. They're literally neutering these men and then releasing them out into the wild, going, "Why aren't you a man?" like, because you made them defective women. That's why they're not men. And you out here running around being a defective man.
Wait,
everybody.
Did you just say that was? Did you just say that was masculine, toxic masculinity? Was that the real masculine, toxic masculinity?
Right. I mean, I just had a buddy of mine who just got he got into the 160th. For those of you who don't know, that's the special forces of the Air Force. They fly the helicopters that kill people. Those of you in the military, you know about them. He just got in, so like we went out for drinks and we're sitting at the bar and we looked around and he was like, "These dudes are all worthless." Like, just like looking around the bar, he was just like, "This is ridiculous." He was like, "If anything happened in here," he was like, "you're the only other person in this bar that's reliable." Like, that's the world we live in. So yeah, because we've relegated men down to just the money. They'll sacrifice their body, they'll sacrifice their health. The men in the olden days, I'm 100% sure we pull up R. Payne's old pictures. He was probably jacked. Bennett's still jacked. Like, Bennett will squeeze your head and pop your eyeball out and then ask you what's wrong with you.
Don't include me, bro.
it.
Bro, don't include me. I look like J.J. Walker from Good Times.
Bro,
back in the day, bro.
Mr. Bennett looked like
jacked.
Luke Cage after retirement, bro, running around like a superhero. I'm expecting him to fight crime tonight.
Not back in the day, bro.
Mr. Bennett say, "Dynamite."
We getting Mr. Bennett on a helicopter. We gonna drop him into Chicago. He gonna fix everything in a week. We got it. He got it, bro.
Oh yeah. Well, I love me after 40. After 40, I was no joke, but
what I'm saying is,
you was the Casanova of the ghetto.
But like when you looked at those pictures, these dudes were not just carrying themselves sloppy. They cared. They made sure that they were ready, because think about it. Like Take Heat said, those men were going through actual trauma, dealing with actual racism. What'd you have to do? You had to be ready to at least defend yourself, right? We ain't. Most other men are not built like that. If something goes down now, the Vikings come running down the alley, them little hoodlums come down the alley, you and your girlfriend getting robbed, and if they want to clap cheeks, y'all just gonna cry together and hold hands and take it.
Well, I've always been an
pulling out
advocate,
phones. That's it.
For again, returning. If we don't return back to selective service, at least can we change gym class?
Yeah.
Back to calisthenics. And if you watch those old 60s
Doing
gym
up
videos,
down.
whatnot, those were up downs. They had to do the
Yep.
rope climb up, touch the
Yep.
ceiling, and come
Yep.
back down. You had to do a certain amount of push-ups, a certain amount of pull-ups,
What?
and you were just getting guys fit. But it wasn't about playing kickball and baseball and all this other kind of stuff. It's like gym became recreation rather than
Yep.
actually having guys. You had a fit test that
Yep.
you had to pass, and you got a grade in gym. Not because of your participation, but because you could do 20 push-ups or
Yep.
50 sit-ups.
10 pull something. But there was you were scored on your level of fitness.
Yep.
And
No,
those classes were like they were lined up. We had to do those burpees and all that stuff. And it was like there was an order and a cadence to it. So
they
yeah,
ain't
so
gonna do it. The children labeling themselves as cats and bears and stuff.
Yep.
They doing that.
Yep.
Hey, we got a cat tax, attack cats out here. You know what I'm saying?
You know what I always like growing up? I would look at like the old basketball games. I'm like, why do these men look more like men than the new younger guys? They yellow head, and I'm like, I don't get
Protein
it.
shakes.
They were the same exact age, but they look like men, like you want to marry. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It
Yeah.
just looks different. Maybe
The
it's
shorts
like
was shorter back
what
then.
Ray
That's
said.
what it was.
This
They had
big
the
next
long
to
legs.
in the rice. You know.
They had
again,
the
those guys
Dr.
were
J
looking
legs.
older
You know
though.
what I'm
You
saying?
look at any old sports videos. In
Yeah.
fact, we had a player for us at Rutgers. He just passed. He was one of the greatest players at Rutgers, Phil Sellers. And again, you look at his picture during his college days. I'm like, the guy looked 35 years old.
Yeah, they look like
He had a
men.
full beard. He had, his hair was thinning and whatnot. I was like, man, this guy can't be
He been
19,
through some
20
things.
years old. I'm just saying, but you look at all those old athletes from back in the day, back in the 70s, they all looked 35. It's like, oh, the guy's only 23 years old. I mean, it was amazing to me. So yeah.
Most of them guys had 2 jobs and then still played basketball too. So the money was
Smoke
kinda
cigarettes,
different
drink
back then.
whiskey.
They were
Oh,
drinking
that's
in the
you.
locker
Oh
room
yeah,
at halftime.
definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
Bruh.
You know what? It has really been fun tonight. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. We had a good time tonight. What we're gonna do is we're gonna start giving up our final thoughts, and we're gonna start with Take Heed to the Message. Take Heed, give us your final thoughts, and also tell the people how they can find you.
Well, I gotta go after that. Okay. So I love the whole panel. Guys, y'all all was amazing. I love to be up here with y'all. Y'all just a bunch of group, just amazing. Just reckless. You got issues, baby. But I love you though. And Terry got issues too in the chat. But I love y'all. But I just want to say this. Yes, there are some things that you can blame us for. Yes, there are some things that we did wrong. But our young people, y'all got to be accountable. Y'all got to correct y'all ish. Just because we drop the ball doesn't mean you continue to keep dropping the ball. Like I grew up in a drug home, my mother and my father. But am I supposed to drop the ball because they dropped the ball? Am I supposed to punish my children the way that they punish me? No. I'm a hellraiser in my house on my kids. Yes, I am. Because I don't want them to grow out. I don't want the streets to get them. And we live in the suburbs. But I train them where my mother and father missed it. Now, am I going to say that I'm perfect? No, I'm not perfect. But I want them to see a better day. So for my younger generation, we messed up. We dropped the ball. And I listen, I'm the first one to be accountable to tell you. There's a lot of influencers that would tell you, yes, we messed up. But that doesn't mean you continue the generational curse. That means you still have to go and do your thing to take care of your family so the offspring that you have won't fall by the wayside. There's a lot of things that's wrong, but we need to correct it as well. And we need our women to say they're going to hold themselves accountable. Our women need to start speaking out. I know it sounds funny when I say I know it sounds funny when you hear me say booty hole brown. When I say pussy pink, all this stuff, gonorrhea, all this stuff, it sounds funny. But truthfully, this is nasty. No other culture does this but us. And we sit and we think it's funny. Now that young girl said all her lipstick got sold out. Can you imagine how ratchet that is? Oh, it's so pretty. It got sparkles in it. First of all, I don't care what you called it. I'm not going to put it on my lips. But we glorify foolishness like this. My name is Take Heed to the Message on YouTube. Take Heed to the Message, Abang Awan. And on Facebook, my name is Abang Awan. And on Instagram, it'll be Awan Abang 1973. I know y'all can get all that, but just come to Take Heed to the Message on YouTube.
Thank you so much, Take It. It's been a pleasure having you this evening. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Bennett, final thoughts, and tell the people how they can find you, sir.
Well, it's definitely. I was having a conversation with my daughter about her best friend and how she can't even get to a date stage with most guys. So she'll hit the Bumble or whatever. She'll swipe right. They'll start a convo or whatever, and just getting to a date. They may even hook up. They may even meet at Panera or something like that. But they can't even get it to a dating stage yet before she finds something wrong with the guy to then go on and she's go swiping again to the next guy. And then she goes complaining to my daughter about why can't I get can't get with a dude. And I know she's got friends like that all over. Where I mean, the guy, girls with a guy would travel with the family, be on IG. She's going to all these islands. She's going to families taking her on vacation with them. And then it gets to a point where he said something, he did something, whatever, don't feel right, boom, I'm bouncing. And now she's back to just posting pictures of herself on IG. I mean, this is not working. I mean, like I said, I think that certainly some of the older cultural traditions, I think again, I think there are some negatives that have come with that, but I think the young generation has taken it so far. It's like the pendulum has swung so far over to the right side that it's they're not seeing the damage that it's causing. And the another problem is everybody looks at their life like Instagram, you post a snapshot of your life, but they're not thinking about the duration of their life from end to end. And so yeah, you at this point at 25, at 35, you can talk about, yeah, I don't need a man, I can make my own money. Yeah, that might be true in this snapshot, but life, just like marriage, is not about a snapshot. It's about a journey that you take with someone for life. And I think that's one thing we need to talk about, at least how we propose marriage or speak about marriage to people. We got to talk about the journey of marriage. I posted on my IG, talk about marriage is not about even the destination. It's about a journey that you go on with somebody, changing, growing, evolving together through the duration of the journey with someone. And I think that's a message that I think a lot of younger people and even some millennials, because I know some people in my age bracket, they're single too, and they're saying a lot of the same things. They want this person to be perfect at this time, but nobody wants to go on the journey with anybody. Nobody wants to grow with anybody anymore. So I think I think we need to certainly how we talk about marriage. I think needs to change. But if you think you're going to have a perfect person, look, you're going to have kids, your body's going to change, your sex drive is going to go down. You're going to go through job changes, you're going to go through moves, you're going to go through all these phases of life. You're going to get sick. You know, our Payne talks about doing his own laundry. I do my own laundry also. I always did my own laundry because I never want to do my wife's because I always want to think of her as a sexual being. And so if I ever saw something in the laundry that didn't look right or whatever, that's gonna mess me up sexually. So that's why I don't do her laundry. You know what I'm saying? So again, you gotta do these things to keep things going. I cook Sunday dinner also. You know what I mean? So I think we also have to think about, there's a difference between standards, there's core values and principles, but there's still room for variation. Marriage doesn't have to be cookie cutter where she has to have there's a woman's role and there's a man's role. You can still have the flexibility to find what works for you as long as your values, again, love, honor, duty, respect, communication. As long as those things are there, there's a lot of different options. But a car has to have certain things. It has to have an engine, it has to have a transmission, it has to have a brake system.
And
As
some
long as you do,
wheels.
and some wheels, all of that power steering, all of that. But what color you want? You want the flip top, you want the coupe, you want the, you want all those other options, tinted windows. You can customize it to the max. So it doesn't never, and not every car has to look like every other car. But you know, can we at least agree on some basic things, and then have the wherewithal to build from there? I don't think I was necessarily ready for marriage when I got married, but I knew I needed to be married. Again, I wasn't going. I didn't have the gift of singleness, so I was like, I need to get me a wife. I figured out the rest of the stuff on the way. But the question is, was she and were I willing to go through those growing pains until we got to this point where we're in year 27? So that is what a lot of people have to ask themselves. It's like, a lot of people, you're just not built for this long haul, but we need to teach it. This is a long haul. This is not a sprint. This is not an instant. This is a lifetime journey where you get to that point where you ain't even do it anymore, but you're still together. You changing diapers, your diaper or your catheter or whatever. At the end of the day, that's what it's going to be like. Can you deal with that? Or do you have to look like your Instagram photo? But yeah, you guys can find me. I hang out in these spaces. I hang out in the BMU network. I might be on the sports show tomorrow, sub hosting for the guys. So you'll find me here. Find me on IG, Paul T. Bennett. I talk about fitness and lifestyle, fitness over 50, family. I live my life. My name here, Mr. Bennett. You'll find me, Paul Bennett. I don't have a handle. I just live my life and I just let that speak for me. So, you check me on my LinkedIn, you check me on my IG or whatever. It's all the same. I don't have like I said, an alter ego. This is just me. I'm Bruce Wayne all the time. So you guys can find me there. But again, always a pleasure being on this panel with good people who really all you guys. I mean, the intent that everybody has, the heart that everybody here comes with. Ray, I get on you sometimes, but again, you get me every single time when you talk about, again, you're blessed that you get more than you deserve. And again, you are as much as I love your grind, I love your humility at the same time. And so again, so everybody on this panel brings so much to this, people of goodwill. And I think as long as we just keep plugging in this space here, we can make an impact on some folks. So definitely I encourage everybody to support the network, support the channel. All these guys who have channels, certainly subscribe and visit. And let's just make safe spaces for people to have real conversation who care about other people. So thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bennett, for being a pillar of this great community. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this evening. Our Payne, grace
Hey, yeah,
with your
great.
final thoughts, sir, and
Yeah,
how
cool.
people can find you, sir.
Yeah, right. Great moderation, lost in translation. Very good. Very good questions. Great questions.
Indeed.
And thanks to BMU for letting us up. And listen, Mr. Bennett, you just solved the gender war, because every relationship, tradition or not, is a negotiation. It's what you and your partner negotiate on how you're going to run your lives. And it's just that simple. I mean, it's really just that simple. You find your wife, or a woman finds the man she wants to marry, and you negotiate how you want to live your lives. And then if you're going to take vows, you have to believe in them. You got to mean it. You got to take those vows, and you got to decide you want to live by them, or else don't ever take them. So it's funny, so you get back to the Sunday dinners thing. How our lives get so hectic with our families. And one of the things I wanted to make sure once I retired is that me and my young ladies, they're grown women now, and my wife, we sit down and have Sunday dinner so we could talk to each other. I can see how they're living, what they want to do. And I like it. So my wife took care of all the cooking and stuff. But Sunday, I make nice things, and I like their compliments. When my oldest daughter said to me, we was talking about relationships, she said, "But Dad, I can't find a man like you." And it kind of went over my head, but I can't stop thinking about her saying that. I think that was one of the biggest compliments she ever gave me. And she didn't mean it as a compliment. And, and I'm saying to myself that, gosh, you know what? I didn't, I take it as a compliment, but I also say I kind of failed her in some kind of way. Because I think it was supposed to be my responsibility to find a man like me for her. At least put her in proximity to those kind of guys, and I didn't make that a priority as she was growing up for either one of my daughters. I didn't think about that. And I kind of owe that to these spaces just because I never really talked about this stuff until I came onto YouTube, and seen how other people think. So, so when I look at relationships, yeah, I was good at keeping my marriage together. I was good at educating my daughters. I was good at making sure they didn't make mistakes they couldn't come back from. They're both educated. I didn't grow them to be independent. I grew them to be self-sufficient. I wanted them to be self-sufficient, but they don't have any issues with men, or fearing men. But I really thought the one thing I wish I would have done better is put them in proximity with my peers who have kids their age. So I can at least introduce them to guys from vetted families. And I didn't do a good job at that. So, I mean, I'm not going to cry over it because that's how most people are. But, because that's not one of our American traditions. And so now I'm thinking about it. So, so anyway, so I'm just going to end with that. But the real main point based on the subject today is really, Mr. Bennett, you hit it. If family or relationships are a negotiation between a man and a woman on how they want to live their lives. And it's just as simple as that. And the one square that I'll stand on is that the man in a relationship has to be the leader, but he has to be worthy of that leadership. And a woman has to be willing to follow that guy who's worthy, and both have to trust each other. And it's really that simple.
Thank you, Arthur. Tell the people how they can find you, man.
Oh yeah. My channel is Marriage, Politics, and Sports, and I do a lot of videos. I don't do any lives, but I talk about all of those relationships. I talk about sports. I talk about politics. And my thumbnails kind of tell a story of what I'm talking about. So, and I have some good ones on there. So I think they're good, so, so I'm just starting out. I've been, I'm coming up on my 1 year on being on YouTube. So visit my channel, give me a like, share, subscribe,
That's right.
That'll help me out.
Thank you so much for joining us, Arpain. Thank you, sir. Reckless Ray, go ahead and give us your final thoughts, sir. And
Okay.
also tell the people how they can find you.
Will do. This, like everybody said up to me, it's about what you get what you negotiate for. With that said, you can negotiate from a much better space if you are a complete man. That means that you're checking off as many of those boxes as possible. You have your stuff together. You have your life purpose in order. Your life doesn't revolve or isn't built around attaining or keeping a woman. You actually have an existence that matters above and beyond that. So that way you have a life to bring a woman into versus you trying to sort stuff out on the back end. You should have a goal and you should be moving towards that goal. And then you bring somebody along with you. It's a lot easier to follow somebody that already has a plan. And I'm not going to be long-winded tonight. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it there. That's where we're landing that plane. I'm Reckless Ray De Niro. You can find me at Reckless Ray De Niro over on my channel. We talk mostly about finance. We talk about money over there. We'll get your bank account right. We also have a live panel every Thursday evening called Guns and Butter, where we talk about basically whatever you guys want to talk about, but I kind of put some topics out there. You can check the thumbnails. They're not as good as Arpain's thumbnails, but they'll kind of let you know what we're talking about. And then on all the other social media platforms, Reckless Ray De Niro or something along those lines, either Reckless Ray or Reckless Ray De Niro, you'll be able to hunt me down.
Thank you so much for joining us, Ray. As always, sir, it's a pleasure, brother. Just want to let you know we
Always.
appreciate you, sir. Wife School Podcast. Thank you so much for being patient with us tonight. I
Oh,
just wish
it's been a little while since I've been on the Black Man Unfiltered. Sometimes you gotta reset yourself from these social media streets.
we're
because-
glad you're back and joining us tonight for this conversation. We really do appreciate you.
I
Go
really
ahead and
enjoyed
give
the
us your final
conversation.
thoughts
I'm
and
so
to
sorry.
those people where they can find you.
Okay. I really enjoyed the topic of tonight. I think a lot of people these days that are in modern times, I really do think that they want the security and the nostalgic feel of a traditional marriage, but they just may not know how to, accomplish it. But ask your elders, ask people that are successful, that have been successful in their marriages, read books. There's lots and lots of books on how men are in relationships or how women are in relationships, and just gather so much information to use for your benefit. Just don't let things go out of hand, like, and get, just willy-nilly going with the flow. No, you got to take control of your marriage. You got to fight for your marriage. You have to sacrifice and talk and, sometimes fall back, let the man lead, and, do those things like Bennett said, negotiate within your relationship, because that's what's going to help you get to that end goal, which is the death do you part. And you can look up to your loved one and know that you did all you could. And at the end of the day, that it was all about you guys in the first place. And so we have to think long term, not short term, because our feelings will fail us. And that's the truth. So I encourage everyone to just do your best. And if you don't know, ask. Don't ask the wrong people that aren't going to enable you in your BS. Actually ask and talk to the people that are going to help you and instruct you to be successful in your marriage and in your relationship goals, or to be a better woman or to be a better man, and what you should be as a good foundation or suitable mate for a person. So that's just my 2 cents. I love you guys, and I hope that you have a great evening.
Wife School, tell the people where they can find you.
Oh my God.
Come on. We're not going to leave you hanging like that.
Hold on. Is that what, who did I say that AARP? Oh, it's coming up. You can find me right here at the Wife School Podcast. The same thing on Instagram, also Facebook and YouTube, and I'm here on the Black Man Unfiltered sometimes. I'm gonna try to be good about coming back, but that's just basically where I'm at on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. So thank you so much. If you love to support, please, I would love to have you.
Thank you so much, Wife School Podcast. As always, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much. Anissa, let's go ahead and give us your final thoughts and how the people can find you.
Well, great conversation. Great show tonight. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm going to keep it really short because it is late. I think the blueprint is there. The blueprint is there for marriage and for relationships. If you're Christian, I think that blueprint is what God says that marriage and relationship is. The covenant is there. The blueprint is there, what he intended for it to be, the role of the man, the role of the woman, all of it is there. It's us who have gotten away from it. But the blueprint, I think, is faithful, and I think it's concrete. And I think it's us that has stepped away from it. I wanted to say that I agree with Prototype, though. Men and women need to be held accountable, but it starts with the men. Men are the head, men are the leaders. They're the heads of the household, they're the leader of the woman, they're the leader of the families, and it all starts with the men. So I think I might be the only single person that was on this panel tonight. And I'll be honest, I don't meet a plethora, like Mr. Bennett was talking about his daughters, but I don't meet a plethora of men that are spiritually, emotionally, financially, and physically ready for what they say that they're ready for. especially when you compare it to the blueprint. I'll say it that way. So there's work to be done, definitely on both sides. I think probably within the last few years, I may have truly met one man that was traditional. So, and I'm a traditional person, so I think we've definitely gotten far, far away from that. Are we going to get back to it? I really don't think so. I think too much would probably have to change. I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon. But again, I think it starts with the gentleman, and I think if gentlemen get in their right position, I think women will be happy to follow. We don't want to lead. We don't want to run this thing. We don't want to be responsible for all of this. We really, truly don't. And even the ones that say they do, they just need that right one to come along, to lighten that burden, unbig that back, so they don't feel like they have to carry all of those things. And they'll be glad to give that up and relinquish it. So, but my name is Anise. I'm a guest of BMU tonight. I'm out here in these spaces. I am usually the one that is opposite most of the time from what's being said. I kind of, definitely have my own viewpoint in it. I don't believe in YouTube talking points. I don't follow that, and I don't try to say, all the things that men want to hear. I give my honest opinion. And so I've enjoyed everyone tonight. So hopefully I'll see you guys again.
Thank you so much. And this, I just want to let you know, I really do appreciate your perspective, because we need a different voice, because we don't want to keep saying the same things in an echo chamber. Even though it may be different from what we're used to hearing, it still needs to be heard. And I just wanted to say thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you so much.
You. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. You're welcome. JT, my man. Let's go
Hey.
ahead and give you your final thoughts, man, and tell the people how they can reach you, man. Thank you for being patient too, JT. Because I know you've been down there waiting, man.
Oh man, I enjoyed the conversation, man. I enjoy listening to everybody's perspective. So it's not excruciating at all, bro. This is a beautiful thing to be on this panel, man. Just to hear, everybody's different ways and they different takes. Because one of the things I have to say is that every time I listen to any one of these folks that's on this panel, I end up having a different thought. It goes to and I just thought about, I was like, dang, we got to do a show about this. Our Pain came up. He been hitting on him, and Benny been hitting on some shit, boy, today.
Yeah, they do.
And I just been thinking, but I do want to be able to look of men that have daughters, like I have daughters too. That's all I got is daughters. And there is a
hang on, all three of us are like that. How do we? I got three, you got two, Arpane's got two. So
yeah.
What did we do so wrong?
Right. And it just go to a point where I'm like, damn, we did do kind of like a disservice to our daughters when it comes down to the aspect of being able to put them in the vicinity of those men that do exist that we want our daughters to be around. And I'm like, wow, that's something for us to actually be able to explore, man, because it even gave me I had these flashbacks of men that's like my age and probably a little bit older that got daughters, and how they even was thinking when their daughters was, little. My daughter ain't gonna be dating no man until she 40. And they was serious as heart attack. You like, wait, you can't do that, man.
Right.
You got to start talking to her about sex.
Prime just said that today.
And it's like, wait, we're doing a disservice to our daughters. And I think that needs to be explored, bro. That's one of the things. A lot of the things that we are dealing with right now has come to fruition for the simple fact that it was a process of this, right? Through not just, whatever happened in my generation, it was already in the practice before my generation even, had a chance to even understand what was going on. And the generation before that, and the generations that's after that. So I'm glad that we do have these conversations, man, because it gives me a different perspective on how to talk to my daughters. My daughters are adults, but I got one that's getting ready to graduate from college. I got another one that graduated 2 years ago. And they're lost out here. And I don't know what to tell them. When it comes down to these type of men, I'm looking at them like he ain't it either. I think if they relied on me to vet the men that they have, I think that they probably would be worse off. Because I don't see any men that's in their age bracket that I'll be like, that's the guy. And it's because I know men. I know myself. I don't care. This is the thing about men and women. I don't care where that man, how he was raised. He could be a Christian. He can be Muslim. He can be, you could put all of us together. A man that was in prison, a man that had, and you put us all together. And we can talk about anything with one another, especially when it comes down to infidelity. And we won't judge one another. That's the craziest thing about men. There's a unspoken rule about men. That's why we know that if a man tells on another man, it's because he want what that man has.
That dirty macking.
Dirty macking. Most men just will not do that with other men. It's the unspoken rule. I'm talking about every range of life, and you put them all together, they'll be able to talk about any and everything. It's when you add women to the mix. It's when all the deceit comes. Not even money would cause those men, because, you know, when you go against that, everybody will agree. Just like that's why men are so good in selling dope. Men are so good at, you know, all these other gruesome things, because there's still rules within all the other stuff that goes on. And it's you know, it's like a contradiction. I don't want to leave you. I don't want to keep y'all any longer. You can find me at What We Know Podcast. You can also find me on IG at JT at What We Know Podcast. I've been struggling trying to get these shows together. I've been doing a lot of stuff outside of social media, so it's kind of hard to get my shows back popping. But once I get that thing cranking, man, it's gonna be hard for me to stop again. But again, What We Know Podcast on YouTube, and I'm gonna land right there, y'all.
Thank you so much, JT. As always, my brother, it is a pleasure having you. Remember, man, if you need some help, let us know, man. We got your back. You know, iron
doubt.
sharpens iron and steel sharpens steel. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So we got
Absolutely.
you. Thank you for coming out, brother.
I appreciate you, man.
And now, Mrs. Jenny. First of all, let me apologize for having to have you come so late and so last. But I really want to thank you for joining the conversation. You add so much levity to the conversation and things we probably hadn't thought about. And I just want to say thank you for joining us this evening and being patient. If you would, could you give us your final thoughts and also how the people can reach you?
Yeah, no, it's no worries. I mean, that's just the nature of doing a panel. You have to wait because there's a bunch of other people who want to say what they want to say. So it's no problem. I guess my final thing to say would be that it's really, the whole institution of marriage right now is becoming really unpopular for both men and women, for younger and older. Like, the whole institution is under attack. And I talked about this on my TikTok, where it is, I think it's Miss Jenny. I think that's just Miss Jenny, as opposed to my YouTube channel, which is Miss Jenny R. Jones. And I really, like JT was saying, like, I like to hear other people's perspectives, because you can only know what you've experienced and what you've come across. But, you know, I'm a 25-year-old woman. So someone like R. Payne, who said he's 65, 65-year-old man, he, you know, he has a completely different perspective. And so it's good to hear. So I really like hearing that, and that's why I enjoy coming up here and listening to you guys. And so, but I think that it's good that, for the most part, I think that we all agree that marriage is good and that it's something that we should continue to promote. But how we're going to get to the point where we feel like it is it's the most beneficial for both parties is, you know, the conversation that we keep, you know, having. And so I like that, and I think that this is good, and that we should continue to do this. And like I said before, you can follow me on TikTok at Miss Jenny. and YouTube at Miss Jenny R. Jones. Those are the two places where I post the most. I have an Instagram, and that's Miss Jenny R. Jones. And I don't necessarily do a whole lot up there. That's where I post more of like my personal stuff. But here is where I post like my actual content and where I'm posting every day and being most active. And so, yeah, thank you, everyone. Your insight and your 2 cents were valuable, and I hope you all have a really good evening.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jenny. As always, it's a pleasure having you join us here on Talk That Talk Tuesday on the Black Man Unfiltered Network. I'm going to go ahead and give my final thoughts. Tonight was a fantastic evening. We learned a lot of stuff, and I want to give Mr. Bennett his roses, man, because Mr. Bennett put something on me that I didn't think about. He said, your marriage can be customizable to whatever it is that you need. It doesn't have to look like everybody else's stuff, as long as it goes. And I think I'm glad Miss Jenny is here because she's married. And in my mind, it just speaks to just go. You know, I think a lot of people are waiting until they get all their ducks in a row and lining everything up. You know what I mean? And I can hear my dad in the back of my mind, just go. You know, you'll learn along the way. That's the purpose of life. Life is a journey. You know what I mean? And it's meant for you to learn along the way. I mean, how would it feel if you had the answers to everything before you even got started? Would life even be worth living? You know what I mean? Without those surprises, you know, without you meeting adversity when you come across it. You know what I mean? You don't reveal yourself to yourself if you're not challenged. Does that make sense, y'all?
Yep.
You know what I mean? My thing is this: I want to make sure that everybody gets out of this fear. Miss Jenny spoke earlier about women feeling as if they're not enough. We need to have conversations like this to let them know, hey, we're here to help you out. You know what I mean? We need to be able to undergird our helpers so they can help the men do what they need to do. We need to let women know that your role is just as important as the man's role too. And we're here to help you believe that you are enough. You know what I mean? So we have a lot of work to do, and I love having these conversations. To the people in the chat, thank you guys for coming out. Black Man Unfiltered, man, anytime you need me to fill in, man, let me know, because that's what I'm here for, you know? And if you guys ever want to catch me, you can catch me right here on Talk That Talk Tuesday. You can also catch me at the barbershop here on the Black Man Unfiltered Network, and on Sundays with Sir Hell Speaks Super Sunday. Y'all gonna have to find me on my channel, and y'all would come on over to Sir Helen already said it. You know, we're gonna be running Super Sunday, so you can find me on Sunday, and even on Monday, you can find me on Humble Dash channel. That's what me and Prototype. And Prototype, I ain't forgot about you, brother. I want to thank you for coming out as well too, and everybody else in the chat. I want to thank Black David, Black Man Unfiltered, and everybody else in the chat for coming out, and also the people who are watching on the replay. There were a lot of good nuggets on here, and you would be serving yourself good if you got out a notebook and you wrote down some of this stuff and come back and challenge us with some of the things that we said, because the only way we're going to get better is if we challenge ourselves to get better. And that's what we should be doing every day. We should be teaching ourselves to get better each and every day. Black Man Unfiltered, thank you so much for allowing me to step in tonight. As always, it has truly been a pleasure. And I want to thank you guys for coming out to another edition of Talk That Talk Tuesday. Thank you, and good night.